Good. Then I will call this meeting of Monday, September 14th, 2020 to order. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, please, Mrs. Orr.
Ms. Cruz?
Present.
Mrs. Dempsey?
Present.
Ms. Fox? Absent. Ms. Hume?
Present.
Mr. Malloy?
Present.
Mr. McAndrew?
Present.
Mrs. Welby?
Present.
Mrs. Yanni? Mrs. Yanni?
Present.
Ms. Gilmartin?
Present.
8
And-
present, 1 absent.
Thank you. Ms. Fox is not with us this evening because since last we were all together, she welcomed a beautiful baby boy into this world. So she is with him this evening, I think, and enjoying lots of snuggles. So we're thrilled for her. Everybody's doing very well. Is there anything I'm sorry.
I just have a quick question. I know we can't get on Zoom or live or stream it, but are we still going to be trying throughout the meeting to get it up there, or are we just not even going to continue to try?
No,
I will continue to try.
we're going to continue to try.
Thank you. And that has been clarified.
It's not live
On-
streaming from Zoom.
I'm sorry.
Sorry.
Is there a question? That has been clarified also online on the district Facebook and website, I believe. I know Facebook.
Yeah, we're pushing that out right now.
Right. Thank you very much. And it will,
Thank you.
as we've said, be recorded and will also be made available on ECTV afterward. Are there any items to be pulled from the consent agenda? Do you have anything? Okay. Then may I have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
May I have a second?
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay. Thank you. Communications to the board?
Yes, executive sessions were held on June 10th, June 29th, July 27th, 3rd, August 27th, August 31st of 2020, and this evening to discuss real estate litigation, personnel, and negotiations.
Thank you, Jenny.
Thank you.
And we have a capital improvement plan update from PFM.
Yes, thank you, Director Gilmartin. With us this evening, we have 2 individuals. You have met them and know them, Ian Tyson and Nicole Westerman. They're both from PFM. Ian is the Senior Managing Consultant at PFM, and he's the lead for technical assistance and implementation for the Scranton School District Recovery Plan. And Nicole Westerman has over 20 years of experience working with governments in Pennsylvania and elsewhere, including senior positions in Pennsylvania State Budget Office and the School District of Pennsylvania. Tonight, they will be presenting to you the capital improvement plan for the Scranton School District. Ian?
Dr. Finan, I will share my screen in a second.
Thank you.
Get this out of the way. So tonight we are going to give you an update on the presentation that we delivered on the 31st at the school board working session. I'm going to start off with a timeline of some of the dates that we had discussed the last time and just reiterate where we are at in this process. So the last time we introduced a lot of the definitions for the work that we're doing and gave a brief overview of some of the ongoing projects that are taking place. The first one up on the list down here is where we're at today, and then also for tomorrow. The first one being the facilities condition assessment and owner's representative services. And then the other part of this presentation will focus on providing a little bit more detail for the capital improvement plan that will be presented in October. Following that, the board will receive a formal capital budget document in conjunction with the annual budgeting process. So this will be something a little bit new for you. In addition to the operating budget, there will be a capital budget for you to review and consider as part of the annual budgeting process. I'd just like to start off with just a couple of definitions that we're going to be going over with some things tonight. The first one is we're going to be talking about the first two items right now, which would be the district's capital eligibility policy. Right now, what we're trying to do is we're trying to establish ground rules for determining what's considered a capital expense and what's considering an operating expense. So the capital eligibility policy that we've presented to the board would lay out those ground rules for you. This is a very typical policy that a lot of governments, school districts, cities, counties have as just a guideline for what will and will not be included in the capital budget. The other thing that we'll be talking about tonight will be the conditions assessment. You might have heard this referred to as a feasibility study in some other contexts. In 2012, you had completed a feasibility study for your school buildings with the various improvement projects that were done, and then some that remain to be done. So whenever I refer to a conditions assessment, in your mind, you could consider also another way of describing that would be a feasibility study.
I have a bottle.
So just as a recap of what we talked about during the working session, there's going to be a lot of capital projects that will be ongoing in the district over the next couple of months and years. So one of the first things that we're going to be doing is issuing this RFP for the facilities conditions assessment and the owner's representative services. And the reason why we're doing these in tandem is because the firm that would be doing the conditions assessment will gain some critical insight into the district's building conditions that will help them then prioritize what those projects would be over the next several years. As part of the conditions assessment, we are asking for the firm to do a comprehensive inventory of all your buildings, all the internal systems, and then also give you a tool so that you can track them over time. So this will help you out with the administrative capacity to update this on an ongoing basis. So as we complete these projects that are in the capital plan and in future plans, we can incorporate those into that system. The other thing that I just want to draw everyone's attention to is just as we just talked about last time, the last conditions assessment was done in 2012. So for this, we're hoping to get updated costs and then also incorporate new priorities from the conditions that have changed since then. And then I think the most important thing out of this will be getting the owner's representative services. The volume of capital work that we're going to be doing over the next couple of years is well over what would be considered like a full-time equivalent person's job. Even if you had the full-time facilities director position filled, this would probably be an additional full-time job on top of that. So just to make sure that you have enough capacity to make sure that the projects are done properly, they're done on schedule, they're done on budget, and then you can have that extra pair of eyes for overseeing that process. That's why we're recommending that.
So you all saw this slide last time, but we wanted to revisit it. So when you have the new condition assessment finished, you're going to have fresh information about the needs of district facilities and the relative priority of them. But in the meantime, it's urgent that the district go ahead and proceed with projects with the information that we currently have about condition needs and relative urgency. And really, all we're trying to get across with this slide is that when you're talking about capital projects, time really flies. So what we want is to have the district have several projects in construction next summer, in summer of '21. And in order to do that, the district really needs to begin right away, which is why we started talking with you about the conditions assessment and owner's rep RFP a couple of weeks ago. So, the orange and yellow sort of show, you know, you need time to do an RFP, a request for proposals, select design consultants, then have the design get finished, and then you bid, you know, have a bid process to select a contractor. You have to do all of that before construction can begin. So if we want construction happening in June, July, August of next year, we need to get started right away. So what we wanted to talk with you about next was really what are the projects that we are currently expecting the district to move forward in the rest of this calendar year and in 2021. So right now we're thinking of this in kind of 3 groups of projects based on sort of how quickly they can get moving. So in this first group, these include some of the most currently urgent projects and also projects that are already in motion. So I suspect you've heard before about Armstrong Elementary School. This is urgent because there's mold in the building. Scranton High School sprinklers have significant leak problems. South Scranton Intermediate School boilers need work urgently in order for the building to have heat this coming winter. There are also some relatively new needs that are being identified. We just recently learned that the track at Memorial Stadium urgently needs work. And then other projects that could be included in this first group could include renovations that are needed once building reconfiguration plans are firmed up. And then there could also be smaller renovation projects such as Sumner Elementary School. And the timing and the sequence of these projects is going to depend on a few different factors. One of those factors will be how quickly design gets done. Another factor will be the RACP grant that the district is applying for. We are optimistic that that grant will cover one or more of, will be matching funds for one or more of these projects. So we'll need to make sure that we move the projects forward that are approved. It'll also depend on the timing of the bond issue for capital, the capital bonds. And then finally, it's going to depend on capacity. So it will depend on the ability to get these RFPs out, do these bid processes, and to have that owner's rep contract in place. The second group, these are actually projects that are relatively simple. So we think that they could move pretty quickly and still be in construction in the summer of 2021. So they're in 2 groups. One is roof projects. So roof projects generally can be kind of discrete projects. You can, in many cases, kind of do the roof as a separate project, even if the school needs other work done. So you have a number of facilities that urgently need roof work. They include West Scranton Intermediate, West Scranton High School, Morris Elementary, and Willard Elementary School. And the expectation with these is to get the design work done as quickly as possible, and then bid the work out so that contractors could bid on 1, 2, 3, or all 4 projects at the same time. And that will, we're expecting that to result in some cost savings to the district. So we'll ask contractors to tell us, if you're awarded more than one of these projects, what kind of a discount are you willing to offer the district? Because they may be able to save on some of their mobilization costs. And then the second project in this group is life safety system improvements. These, of course, are really important improvements across the district. Life safety systems are code requirements and, of course, important in making sure that students and staff are safe in case of an emergency. So we're talking about fire alarm panels, we're talking about smoke detectors, audible and visible alarms. And this is specialty work that can be done by by a contractor across the district. So we're hoping to achieve some standardization in your systems. And then the third group is really about starting to tackle some of your facilities that need very, very comprehensive renovations. So you have a few schools that have so much need and so many kinds of projects that they really are probably going to need just a gut renovation that is going to take time to design and time to build, and definitely a larger project than could be achieved just in the summer, probably. So two examples of those projects are West Scranton High School and Northeast Intermediate. Both of those schools need significant site improvement work, including sidewalks, new stairs, new ramps. They also need door and window replacements. They'll need very significant interior renovations, including the bathrooms, including new finishes throughout the schools. They'll need, there are fire code and accessibility improvements that need to be made, such as lifts. And then there are also, we think, significant heating, ventilation, and air conditioning improvements, and plumbing and electrical work at these schools. And as we talked about last time, you see a couple of figures on this slide. We think, at least $10 million for West Scranton High School, at least $6 million for Northeast Intermediate. But that is not even including any mechanical heating, ventilation, air conditioning, electrical, or plumbing work, because those cost estimates were not included in that feasibility study done in 2012. But the work, the design work of these projects should begin to move this year.
And just some final notes before we wrap up here for questions. First off, at the top, if we receive the RACP grant, the Redevelopment Assistance Capital Program grant from the Commonwealth, this will be matching dollars. So at first, the district will have to spend the money to begin the construction, and then once the construction begins, then the reimbursement process can begin to reimburse the district's capital projects fund. So as we talked about, we'll include those into the first group of projects that are coming on board for the capital planning process. The district's buildings, there are many outstanding needs for safety and structural conditions. We're including the ones that we have in the capital plan right now. But one of the reasons why we want to revisit this facilities condition assessment and get an updated, fresh look at these projects is so that we can now prioritize them in an orderly manner, because what we have from the conditions assessment before might not match what are the conditions today, especially when we consider some of the changes that have happened over the past couple of years. And then the other point here is that, emerging needs, we're going to have to come back and revisit these plans as those things change. So we have a limited pot of funds that we can invest in these buildings, and we'll have to choose where we invest those dollars to make sure that they're used in the most efficient and effective way possible. So that way we can make sure that the dollars are spread across the buildings that need them the most, and where you need them the most for your programs that you have. And the final one that sort of builds off of that last one is that, as conditions change, like as we're dealing now with the coronavirus, there'll be other things that come up. So coming out of this, we recognize that building ventilation needs will probably need to be incorporated into this planning process. So we're going to consider those as part of our review of the buildings. And if it's not in the facilities conditions assessment, then it would be taking place in a parallel track along with that assessment.
So I'd like to add one, thank you, Nicole and Ian. I'd like to add one clarifying point. We did have mold in Armstrong Elementary, and we did mitigate that and remediate that, but we never were able to fix the air conditioning system, so the HVAC system needs to be totally replaced. And so I think Nicole might have said there was mold. She's right, but it was in the past. So I just wanted to clarify that for everyone.
Apologies.
That's okay. Are there any questions for Ian and Nicole?
Thank you. Thank you both for clarifying that, because it did perk up my ears as well.
Yes,
So.
it did. It did.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
If there are no questions, we will move on to the solicitor's report.
Yes, good evening, Director Gilmartin and the rest of the board and those that are in attendance. I do have one item I'd like to talk about this evening. Our last board meeting, there was a motion to approve furloughs that was tabled. You will see under 18.01 F-1, that motion has been put back on the table consistent with Robert's Rules of Orders. It was put back on the table precisely as it was taken off the table. So therefore the dates are incorrect and there may be some amendments. So if there's to be a motion, when there is a motion on this, there will probably likely need to be a friendly motion to amend to correct the dates and any other changes that the board may want. So I just wanted to point that out. That's all I have today.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Superintendent's report, Mrs. McTiernan.
Thank you, Director Gilmartin. Good evening, everyone. I just have a couple updates for our school community. As of today, September 14th, there are 6 buildings that remain open. They are West Scranton High School, Scranton High School, John F. Kennedy, Whittier Elementary, Tripp Elementary, and Armstrong Elementary. The remaining schools will be closed, and I want to make sure that our parents know where our maintenance staff, where our paras, where our teachers will be located if they are reporting to work. At John F. Kennedy, we will have Mrs. Artistani from the Plaza, Mr. Coleman from Robert Moore's, and obviously Mrs. Coyne, who is the principal of Kennedy, will be located at those buildings. At Whittier Elementary, main building, we will have Mr. Wolf, who is the principal of that building, and Mr. O'Donnell, who is the principal of Prescott Elementary, reporting to Whittier, Maine. At Isaac Tripp Elementary, we will have Mr. Emiliani, who is our principal at Tripp Elementary, Mrs. Duffy, who is our principal at Sumner Elementary and also the principal of Adams Elementary, and Mrs. McConaughey, who is the assistant principal right now that is overseeing Adams Elementary. At Neil Armstrong, we will have Mr. Laser, who is the principal at Neil Armstrong. We will also have Mr. Budd, who is the new principal at Willard, reporting to Armstrong Elementary, and Mrs. Phillips, who will be reporting to Armstrong Elementary, and she is our current principal at Bancroft Elementary. At the secondary level, our Electric City Academy and South Scranton Intermediate South Scranton Intermediate staff will be reporting to Scranton High School. And at West Scranton Intermediate School and Northeast Intermediate School, that staff will be reporting to West Scranton High School. So if you are looking to get in touch with those individuals, you will need to call the buildings that I've just stated. And I believe all of the principals have put that information out on social media and also have made a one call about that. I'm encouraging parents that if you have a question, those questions should go directly to the building principal. If the building principal does not know the answer, they will find the appropriate person to answer your question. So please email your building principal if you have any questions during this time. I also want to give an update on the food service. Meals will be provided for breakfast and lunch. Meals are bundled and distributed on Mondays for Monday and Tuesday, and Wednesdays for Wednesday through Friday. The meals are distributed between the hours of 10 and 1 o'clock at the following schools: Neil Armstrong Elementary, Isaac Tripp Elementary, Whittier, Maine, John F. Kennedy, Scranton High School, and West Scranton High School. And obviously we are delivering those meals at the buildings that we are currently operating out of. This schedule will remain in effect until further notice. Lastly, I want to remind everyone, and I want to thank our technology department, basically spearheaded by Mr. Doherty, along with all of our technicians who have helped out greatly with our tech support. there are three options for our community, our parents, our students. One is Zoom, and that is available between the hours of 10 and 12. The next option is Google Hangouts, and that is between 10 and 12. And then lastly, there's the ability to submit a support ticket, and that is 24/7. You can submit a support ticket. If you have any concerns or regarding how to log on, all of the issues that, again, we have been facing with our virtual education, please go to our distance learning portal on the Scranton School District webpage. I want to thank our community. I know this week has been difficult for many of us. This is a totally new adventure in so many ways. At the secondary level, we're fortunate that we've had the APEX program, so we're very familiar with that. At our elementary level, we have a brand new program that we're still getting to know and adjust to, and we know that, and we hear some of your frustrations. Please realize that we are all working 24/7 to try to make sure that all of these issues are taken care of. We want to thank you for your support, and again, if you have a problem, please reach out to either your building principal or to the technology support online. I'm understanding that that has been very successful this week. So please bear with us again. And we know that there are issues that we're working through with our elementary program. And hopefully by the middle to end of this week, all of those issues will be solved. So again, thank you for your patience and your cooperation to everybody.
Thank you, Mrs. McTiernan. PSBA report, Director Dempsey.
Thank you, Director Gilmartin. I'm going to try and summarize my PSBA report as quickly as possible. Just a quick update from the interim final rule. Education Secretary Betsy DeVos she's kind of backed down on a ruling that basically was moving a lot more federal aid towards private schools. On Friday, September 4th, federal judge Friedrich ordered the rule be vacated. She was actually the third, I believe, the third judge who ruled that the regulation did violate the law. So that is good news, not only for Scranton, but for public schools across the country. We do have an advocacy alert regarding the General Assembly. They're going to be considering liability protections for districts across the state regarding the pandemic. You know, the PSBA is working with legislators in the Senate and the House of Representatives to explain the need for schools to have very carefully balanced safeguards that provide protection without shielding willful or negligent misconduct, of course. So there will be a legislative alert that should be hitting our inboxes so that we can formalize a letter and back the PSBA and their efforts regarding that. PSBA is also calling for some flexibility for those schools if and when we move into a hybrid model regarding emergency drills, testing requirements, keystone exams, regarding the bus evacuation drills and fire drills. You know, it's extremely difficult to maintain social distancing while conducting these drills effectively. So PSBA is kind of pushing back and looking to the PA Department of Education to provide some flexibility and direction specifically on those two issues, conducting those emergency drills and then keystone exam and state testing. The USDA did extend school nutrition waivers until September 30th. Quick note about PDE released federal money for targeted support. The governor was provided 4 of our schools within the Scranton School District were awarded those dollars. These are the ATSI, additional targeted support and improvement dollars under the ESSA, Every Student Succeeds Act. Scranton High School received a little over $160,000. West Scranton High received little over $117,000. West Scranton Intermediate received approximately $81,000, and Isaac Tripp Elementary received $77,000. So that was in total, it was approximately $17 million to help improve educational services for schools designated under that ATSI ruling for ESSA. Lastly, second to last, the Governor Wolf is announcing the availability of $15 million in federal funding for schools to secure broadband, mobile hotspots, and other platforms to increase equitable access for remote learning. Also this week exactly, the Senate considered 2 important pieces of legislation that would address the need to expand broadband across Pennsylvania. And last but not least, there is a fall virtual advocacy day for anyone that would be interested. It's October 8th, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. So any of our board members that would like to attend, I will provide that information. They'll need, basically it's just for PSBA virtual advocacy. The day will be centered around contacting legislators to discuss critical issues impacting public education. And that's all I have.
Thank you very much, Director Dempsey. At this time, we will hear public comment. Please make sure your first and last name are listed with your Zoom sign-in so that we may call you. Each speaker will be allowed 3 minutes to speak. Union officials will be allowed 4. And I would ask that you please remember to maintain decorum and professionalism. Mrs. Orr, if you will call the first speaker, and please let me know when the timer has gone off.
Sure.
Thank you.
Our first speaker is Roseanne Polshin.
Hello. Hello, everyone. Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Okay. Hi, my name is Roseanne Polshin, and I have 3 children in the Scranton School District. I'm here specifically tonight to address special education in the district. I'm not here to blame or take one side or over the other. I'm basically here just to give a voice to many that are voiceless. We had an excellent plan put forth by special education with students with the most severe and complex disabilities would receive one-to-one face-to-face instruction and related services. It was abandoned. It's just if I just lived a few miles away in Dunmore or North Pocono, my son went to the IU-19, if I lived in Delaware Valley or Wallenpaupack, he would be receiving these instruction and this services in a face-to-face environment multiple times per day. A key question during this is whether students need paraprofessionals and PCA support to make meaningful progress against their IEP goals. I think that's a resounding yes. But many of these students cannot reach these goals because the paraprofessionals and the PCAs are not trained on how to effectively be involved in virtual meetings or going into homes to provide services. It's clear from PDE guidance that this can be considered. If a student requires one-to-one support to make meaningful progress, it must happen without delay. Making copies and checking in with the teacher are not enough. Sad to say, I have not seen or heard from my para since before the pandemic began. I don't have an instructional aide for my son who has intellectual disabilities, autism, and epilepsy. He is not even able to turn on a computer without assistance. I am getting very upset about this. He has more needs than ever, and his supports have evaporated since the pandemic. My son needs prompting, redirection, hand over hand, one-to-one instruction, reading, math. He needs meaningful participation in his general education classes that he doesn't even have a class enrolled in yet in high school. He needs speech, OT, behavior modifications, and lesson modifications. I'm getting calls because I am also a special education advocate for the ARC on a daily basis from children that are blind, hearing impaired. They are multi-handicapped in wheelchairs and have not heard a peep from anyone. This is completely unacceptable. Something has to be done. Paraprofessionals and PCAs need to adapt, and so does the administration, the union, and every teacher in this district. Otherwise, outside agencies are going to take these roles because under IDEA, nothing has been waived. A free and appropriate public education and the least restrictive environment are still stands, and they are still applicable under the law. So, and to avoid the lawsuits, which I'm sure people are lined up to ready to get started on, we really need to think outside the box here and get people trained. Paraprofessionals can still be involved in the virtual process. They can be doing breakout rooms. They can be part of the classroom. They could be working with students. They just need the training. They also, PCAs could be going into the homes with the right safety precautions. It's being done in other districts across the state of Pennsylvania. I don't know what's going on here or why the delays. I don't know if it's to save money now or push it down the road, or because, inflexibility with the union contracts or with the roles of the students. That's not my job to worry about that, but it's my job to advocate for my son and all their children.
Roseanne, I'm sorry, your time is up.
Okay, well, thank you very much. I'm a little fired up about all this, but you can understand where I'm coming from. But I appreciate you listening and taking into consideration tonight.
Thank you very much, Roseanne.
You're welcome.
Next, we have Rosemary Boland. Rosemary?
Mrs. Orr?
We can hear you. Now you're muted.
Now are you good?
We're good. We can hear you now.
Okay, thank you. Well, first of all, thank you very much for allowing me to speak this evening. I do want to share with you the fact that I've been getting text messages for about 25 minutes now telling me people are locked out and they can't get back in, and people are saying they were supposed to speak tonight and they cannot address you, the board. They're also saying that other people who normally watch it can't see it anywhere at all, and they want me to bring that to your attention immediately. They said that the messages I'm getting here are that only 100 people are allowed in, and so people were pushed out of this meeting, and now they cannot get back into this meeting. So I think you need to know that. So having said that, I hope that gets rectified. I do believe Serhofius Hall has also been locked out of the meeting, and I think she told me she's watching it on her phone. So this is certainly something that I think is not correct. First of all, that wasn't part of what I was about to say, but anyway, it's out there. So the first thing I want to say is every time I call the Scranton School District, if I don't get a human being to answer the phone, it tells me the Scranton School District is closed because of COVID-19 and the orders of the governor. I don't think we're closed. I believe we're opened and school's in session. So any parent who calls or anybody else who calls the administration building, they're being told the schools are closed. The district is closed. It most certainly is not. Also, when I call one of the numbers at the ad building, Dr. Erin Keating, the superintendent of Old Forge School District, is on and messaging that she's not in her office right now. Well, I imagine she's in her office, but it's in another school district. I think that is a sad display of our district. I don't think Dr. Keating, should be on one of the phones up at the administration building. One of the issues we'd like to know, the last meeting, our superintendent told us we had a few new students added to the roster from the 9,200 number that was first given out. I would love to hear an update on the number of enrolled students in the Scranton School District right now. I think it's important for the public to know the number of teachers who have resigned from the Scranton School District and moved on to other school districts in the state and out of state. I think it's also very important for people to know the reason why several of the teachers left our district to move out and take jobs in other school districts. I think that's vitally important. Superintendent McTiernan alluded to the fact that the elementary division is quite upset with the platform that's being utilized right now, and that's shall we say, understatement. Right now, they can't stand the platform that they're being asked to use. And there's complaint after complaint after complaint. And had the people been able to talk tonight, I think you would have had your ears running red. I'm glad Mrs. Pollution spoke a minute ago because she's correct. The paraprofessionals in our district stand ready. They stand ready. And as a matter of fact, several weeks before school began, I asked Mr. Gentilezza to please allow the paraprofessionals to have the same training as their teacher partners have, so that they could assist the teachers in use of the platform for the elementary schools and secondary schools. He thought it was a good idea, and apparently wherever it went after that, it was denied. That's quite short-sighted. We will not be in pandemic mode forever, I hope. And I think when we go back to school, this would be some kind of tool that we could use in the future, not just now during a pandemic, but actually use this tool later on. And our paraprofessionals most definitely should have been trained in the use of that tool. This was very, very short-sighted of our district not to make use of our terrific paras. They stand ready, they stand willing and able to help out in this situation. And of all the things, they are people in this district who actually know the students, and the students know them and trust them, and they've been through the ringer. And this is something that this was extremely short-sighted of everybody to make this happen in the way it is, that they were locked out of a learning opportunity for them and as essential personnel in the Scranton School District. I hope we don't continue to lock people out of learning around here.
Rosemary, I'm sorry, your time is up.
No, that's all right.
Oh.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Rosemary.
Next, we have Amy Martin. Amy Martin?
Hello.
Hi, we can hear you.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, it kicked me out and I had to rejoin. Good evening. My name is Amy Martin Warner, and I'm a third grade teacher at John G. Whittier. I'm asking tonight that you listen to my words with an open heart and an open mind. I'm asking that each one of you thinks individually and independently, not being pressured by one or a certain few, or by politics or critical naysayers. Also, when listening to the opinions of your fellow board members, think about where their children went to school, where they live, and what true experience they have teaching in a Scranton classroom, a classroom where the needs are ever increasing and the resources are ever decreasing. The truth is, you would not know the importance of a paraprofessional unless you entered our classroom doors and saw the positive influence and impact they have on both students and teachers. I have seen firsthand the work of Anne-Marie Potter, Agnes Jones, and Roberta Jadek. Not only did they help me with tasks around the classroom, which gave me time to address the needs of students, but they also gave individual students the attention and help that they needed and deserved in a classroom where many students need more attention than one teacher can give them. I would not be the person or teacher I am today without them. And I know that any teacher in this district that has worked with a paraprofessional would say the same. A few days ago, I surveyed a group of third grade teachers from around the country asking if their districts laid off paraprofessionals during the period of virtual learning. 2 districts of 12 furloughed their paras. However, they were small districts, one with 500 students and the other with 2,000. The other 10 districts found ways to utilize their paraprofessionals in duties such as helping a group of teachers, not just their assigned teacher, watching the children of staff members who could come to school while their parents worked, helping the teachers with Google Meets, helping prepare supplies and materials to distribute to students and families, helping with taking attendance, extra tasks given to the teachers, meeting one-on-one with students that needed to come to the building, doing one-on-one check-ins with students online, and the list could go on and on. There's a reason why the quote coined by George Herbert in 1640 is still used today. The quote is, "Where there's a will, there's a way." If you know what the right decision is, which would be to keep our paraprofessionals on staff, then the question no longer becomes whether or not to furlough them, but how to utilize them. If you have the will to keep our paraprofessionals, which you do because it's the right thing to do, then we will find a way. Now at this moment, in the moment of voting, you can choose to be a valiant hero in this fight for what the children and staff of the Scranton School District rightfully deserve, or you can be a cowardly villain. The choice is yours alone, and your time is now. Thank you.
Thank you, Amy.
You're welcome.
Next, we have Luann Heenahan.
I almost started.
Can you hear me, Jenny?
We can hear you.
Okay, good evening. Luann Heenahan, president of 32 BJ Scranton office. I want to address you tonight on the furloughs of people in my membership. First, I would like to talk about the behavioral techs at ECA. I don't know if you're all aware, but we currently have 4 techs that are working every day. They're working with our students who attend the programs at SIL. I'm not sure that you know that. If you cut these positions, who will be working with these students? Maybe those students aren't as important to you, or we don't worry about them, you know, but without the behavioral techs, who's going to be there to help them? Next, I want to make sure that you're well aware of our number. Our number that must be maintained is 184. Currently, we have 186, meaning that you can take the 2 bottom positions from our membership, the ones that count to our number. I read your intentions in today's newspaper. We're going to fight you if you carry it out as it was printed in today's newspaper. I just want you all to be aware of that. On to the healthcare. Mr. Audie at the last meeting indicated that it would not be legal to continue the healthcare for furloughed members. However, a school district in the Commonwealth just furloughed, I believe it was Erie, their support staff while keeping the healthcare intact. It's shameful in the middle of a pandemic to take healthcare away. I think that the Scranton School District should have given notice to employees that they intended to furlough. Enough is enough when it comes to everyone being in the dark. I find it absolutely heartbreaking that the people who give so much to the Scranton School District are treated so disrespectfully. And it happens all the time. I think that perhaps you should have postponed tonight's meeting since the public can't see the stream, but that's just my opinion. I'm pretty sure you're going to take the flack for that. And one last thing I would ask that you be mindful when you do your vote tonight to make sure that you keep Robert's Rules of Order and adhere to them, because we know what they are. I know. I'm sure Mrs. Bolin knows, and we are watching. So make sure you've done your homework on how you take your vote tonight. I thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight. Have a good night.
Thank you, Luann.
Next, we have Suzanne Fury.
Yes, I'm here.
Hi, Suzanne, we can hear you.
Okay. Good evening, everyone, and thank you for the opportunity to speak. With all due respect, you are not in our buildings and you do not know what paraprofessionals do. They teach our children how to read letters and make their sounds, and then their words, and then their sentences, and then their paragraphs, and then their stories, and then their novels. This does not happen without a village of people. Literacy is paramount. In addition, our paraprofessionals teach numbers and adding, subtracting, patterns, measuring, problem solving. They take care of social needs, emotional needs, and every other need a child may have that they can. Children in the primary grades, which are kindergarten through 2nd grade, learn and retain information through daily repetition so that we build a strong base. I am a 1st grade teacher, so I know all about that. Paraprofessionals can review concepts one-on-one or in a small group, and it can be done virtually. With training, everything a paraprofessional does in the classroom can be done online and should, in my opinion, be done virtually. Paraprofessionals also assist our learning support population and their teachers. IEPs are legally binding documents. Who will assure that the requirements of those IEPs are fulfilled? Otherwise, be prepared for the lawsuits which will surely follow. So you propose to take away our paraprofessional teachers during a pandemic from the most vulnerable population in our city at the most vulnerable time. In addition, you are taking away healthcare benefits from our loyal paraprofessionals and their families. It just defies logic. I renew my request that you add an agenda item to every meeting to answer the questions that we pose during the public comment. We would like to have answers to our questions. We just listened to multi-million-dollar spending projects to occur over multiple years, and yet the teachers have been told, and paraprofessionals, that there is no money. Why is there investment made everywhere else but in our teachers and paraprofessionals and our students? A no vote to the furloughs is a yes vote for our students. And as Amy Martin said, where there is a will, there is a way. Our paraprofessionals can teach our students online. They can assist our teachers to do that. Please do not waste. We have great needs in our classroom in every grade level from pre-K to 12. We need our paraprofessionals to bolster our teaching of these children because, especially at the primary, this program is extremely complicated for the parents to manage. And we need every resource that we can get. I thank you very much for listening.
Thank you, Suzanne.
Next, we have Vivian Williams. Vivian?
Yes, can you hear me?
Hi, we can hear you.
I'm sorry, I'm losing my voice. So I first echo and support Roseanne Polishin's words, as her worries are my worries for my son. I first urge you also not to vote unless you are able to stream to the hundreds of people who are trying to watch this meeting. Second, I ask that you let anyone who signed up for public comment stay on Zoom past their time, as that is the only public viewing that you will currently have, as usually speakers are kicked over to Zoom. So by the time you vote, you will have no one in front of you to watch your vote. To say the first week of school was challenging would be an understatement. I first would like to thank both Willard and West Intermediate staff and administrations for their hard work, so much so that my son's teacher, Miss Nicole Meehan, sends a daily message going over the day's expectations to a new song specific to him. Though I come to you tonight as an overwhelmed parent who in all honesty has no idea how she is going to maintain the support that my 3 children deserve. It should concern all of you in front of me, as I give more than 100% to my children, their school, and this district that in all honesty has not created a model that is sustainable for an entire quarter. Many of us have seen other districts not lay off their paras, but actually seek to hire more, probably even some from our district, that if laid off tonight will probably not return. I urge you again to push district administration to support its students through the utilization of paras. I feel as all my past suggestions as a parent of 3 have fallen on deaf ears. I can't stress enough the need for you to talk and listen to parents that have to live what you vote for. Not many of you have to navigate 32 Google Classrooms, explain to an 11-year-old what an email address is and how they need to check it daily, along with teaching her how to complete assignments on Google Slides and Google Documents, which includes uploading documents and creating assignments, all while working full-time. I can only hope that when public comment is over, you all have the chance to speak, that you choose your words wisely, because I, for one, am on the verge of tears just speaking to you, knowing that only 3 of you I believe in front of me can relate to the expectations my family is expected to maintain. Please try not to analogize this experience to one of Lewis and Clark's adventures, because the distress that this is having on my family is hard. On another note, as I mentioned before, my opinions are my own, and some not popular, though I feel that the decisions besides COVID being based are being made in the mindset of receivership. And if that's the case, let's do it. What makes receivership look better and better to me is that all contracts are voided and all power is lost. Collapsing classrooms and number of furloughs and the closing of buildings that many feel will not reopen scream receivership to me. So how much worse can we get? Knowing the decision of the staff of what staff to furlough during this time comes down to contract conditions bothers me. Knowing our parish should not be the ones furloughed. If entering into receivership gives us a clean slate, where all weapons, as that's what I like to call them, are removed, and we are all forced to come together, then I'm all for it. I leave the board with this thought. As mentioned during last meeting, if or when these layoffs happen, grievances will be filed, and the district will have to fight them, most likely winning them, I believe. Though, has anyone calculated what the cost is to fight those grievances? Will there be any savings, or is that the point of fighting the grievance as opposed to utilizing the money that we do have wisely? Thank you.
Thank you, Vivian.
Next, we have Roberta Jadek. Roberta?
There. Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Roberta Jadek, and for about the next hour or so, I am employed as a paraprofessional in an elementary autistic classroom. I say the next hour or so because we all know why we're here. We have been deemed unnecessary, basically a luxury that the teachers really don't need, and why would they? Just because they are embarking in unknown territories, that doesn't mean they need any assistance, does it? For instance, my teacher is now using a platform that she will not be trained on until Friday. Get it? She's using it and she hasn't been trained. But instead of being able to take the time to figure it out, she needs to make copies, stuff packets, check attendance, reach out to parents who are not having their children engage in schoolwork, all the things that I could do for her, or for anybody else in the building who needs it. But after tonight, that won't be the case. Unless you ever spend time in an SSD school where parents and children are speaking 50 different languages and dialects, you have no idea what goes on. We have fed, dressed, nurtured, excuse me, and love children who wouldn't necessarily get those things at home. I'm sure this is a foreign concept to all of you. It was to me once. Now it's the way things are. These needs will not disappear just because the child isn't in front of us. We need to figure out how to do what we can for our students from a distance. So tonight the question will be answered. Will you or won't you let us go? And if, when you do, will we have insurance? That's your decision to make. It's not illegal to keep us on insurance, as was said at the last meeting. I made sure to get my facts straight before tonight. And yes, we know what COBRA is. But how can someone receiving unemployment for a job where they make 20 grand a year afford it? And yes, we know what the marketplace is. But how do you decide which plan is the best when the out-of-pocket expenses are in the $8,000 category? The city of Scranton, which is in the same financial situation as the district, made the decision to keep insurance for furloughed workers. They obviously viewed those employees as important. How do you view us? Are we important? Are we necessary? What you decide says a lot about you as a board and as human beings. And if you take insurance from us during a pandemic, there's nothing I can say. I could never live with that on my conscience. Finally, if we are furloughed and recalled, where are we recalled to? Will we return to the positions we held today? Will we be sent elsewhere without consideration as to whether that job is a good fit, whether we can do the job properly? Still too many ifs to consider. Finally, I suggest you table this until tech issues are worked out and everybody can be witness to what is going to happen here tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Bobby.
Next, we have Holly Mead. Holly Mead? Oh, there you are.
All right. Hi. I'm sorry it's so dark. I'm going Facebook Live so the public could watch this meeting because I do feel like you're breaking extremely many sunshine rules at this point. And I would suggest you have Mr. Audi check on that because it's really not kosher. Okay. I would like to talk about the parents in our district. This week, I've realized just how extraordinary these parents are. So many of them reached out to me to get help for their children and for themselves. They needed help logging onto Google Classroom, logging onto Apex, learning how to write on documents using Kami, learning how to submit assignments. Many of the parents I spoke to are working full-time and trying to help their children with their virtual learning. If that isn't a dedicated parent, I don't know what is. What has the district done to help our parents? Many families do not have technology yet. and do not have the internet. So to help those families, we are providing paper packets for their children to complete. The only problem is that now they have to pick up the packets at West Scranton High School because our building, Northeast, is closed. Do you think a family that cannot afford the internet can afford a car to drive over to West to pick up a packet? What about our free meal program? Our students now have to pick up meals at Armstrong Elementary or Scranton High. My question is, how many meals are we serving a day now compared to how many we served in the spring? If these students are being forced to go to other buildings to get meals, are they actually going to do it, or are they just going to go hungry? So not only have we made it harder for all of these parents to access academic packets for their children, we've also made it harder for them to get their children breakfast and lunch. Scranton is a community of families, but what are we doing for our families? By cutting 140 paraprofessionals, you are hurting parents and students yet again. The parents of our special education children need help, not another challenge. During COVID and virtual schooling, our paras are workers, doers, and fixers. They could be the ones helping students and parents through virtual learning. Please think about all you have done to these parents and their families already. And now you're taking another support away from them. I know you have to balance a budget, but how can you keep repeatedly hurting these same families over and over again? The parents I spoke to this week don't deserve this. And I spoke to probably 27 parents helping their children over the phone and many more by email. Tonight, you need to stand up for the families of Scranton and vote no on the furloughs. Thank you.
Thank you, Holly.
Next, we have Tanya Fox.
Hello.
Hi, we can hear you.
Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak this evening. I'm a kindergarten teacher over at Neil Armstrong, so I've had a para in my classroom for the last 13 years. Unfortunately, it's only a half-day para, but it's much better than anything because we can always use the help. I am also a parent of a 9-year-old boy, and I'm also a Scranton City taxpayer. I know I only have a few minutes to talk, but I could really talk about the paras all night long because they are so helpful to everyone in the school. I've had the pleasure of working with Carm Javeris and Anne-Marie Potter and Amanda Palmier, and all the aides in our building always help out whenever we do need help. So everyone at Armstrong has always been in and out of my classroom if we really need them. So you wouldn't believe some of the things that can happen in a classroom of 27 kindergartners. So some of the things that they help out with is from little things like helping me find notes in the morning that are important of how they're getting home or what things they need from parents, to walking kids to the office if they're sick, helping, with cuts and bruises, all the little things to big things, to actually teaching little lessons and one-on-one lessons. My aides have always been more than helpful to those kids that are the neediest, to pull them to the side and try to do flashcards with them, teach mini lessons, anything to try to give them that extra help that they need. They console the kids, especially the first couple weeks of school, that are crying because they miss their parents so much. And they're there to help us. They're also with the kids that are a little too active, running around to try to help keep them busy so they're not disrupting the lessons that we're trying to teach. They do so much for us. And my aide, with what little she gets paid right now, she goes shopping and buys our kids clothes, food, and supplies all the time. And not just for the kindergartners, for the whole school. You can check with the principal and the guidance counselor. She's always bringing stuff in to support the kids. She really does love them. Even knowing that they're being furloughed last week, all the aides were at the school making packets, helping distribute the items, and doing anything they could for the teachers. Even today, my aide was still in my classroom, even though tonight she might be furloughed and let go. And I just thought that was very honorable of her. And I really appreciate all the aides that I've had the pleasure to work with. We're all trying to navigate this crazy new way of teaching and learning. Teachers could utilize our paras in all different kinds of ways to help our neediest children. Our new recovery plan actually asks for us to reduce the amount of special ed referrals and to increase our education for the students. With the aides, they could do those small groups, one-on-ones, and they can help us in any which way that we could. My aide has been asking anything she could do every day. She calls, she messages, what can I do to help you? So I ask you to please vote to keep our paraprofessionals because I think it's in the best interest of our students. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Tanya.
Next, we have Courtney Novak. Courtney Novak,
Hi, yes, can you hear me?
we can hear you.
Hi, my name is Courtney Novak. I am a kindergarten teacher at Francisville Elementary School, a parent and taxpayer in the district. Speaking as a parent and a teacher at the same time, to say this last week has been overwhelming is an understatement. I don't even have the words for it, but we will continue to work and juggle our schedules and try to find the best way that's best for my children in my class and my children at home. Unfortunately, tonight you're looking to vote to furlough some of our, actually all of our paras at this time. My question really would be to the administration that has just made this decision in order to save a little bit of money is, when was the last time you sat in a classroom? When was the last time you were in the classroom, in a Zoom classroom, and had kindergartners all talking at the same time and parents trying to figure out what's going on? And parents are texting and asking questions because they want what's best for their children. We can utilize our parents or our paras to help our parents, to get them involved, to help them find their way around the technology. We haven't even gotten into accelerated ed yet. I'm scared as a teacher and a parent to start to tackle that on top of having students that still do not have Google IDs, still cannot get into their classroom. I really don't think this whole thing was very thought out very well and could have been thought out better, because there are certainly ways that we can use our paras. They are needed now more than ever. They are not expendable. My other concern is thinking of the disaster as you start to call them back. Last year, I spoke many times over the elimination of preschool. When those paras were eliminated, it took the whole summer to try to figure out where they would be going for this coming school year. Some of them got multiple different calls saying that they were in one school and then they're going to another school. It took the whole summer. Some of them just found out where they were going just a few weeks before. So now when you call them back, they need to be called back by seniority. Will they be called back to different positions? What happens to those special needs children that are used to their paras or their PCAs? And now they're getting somebody entirely new. I don't know if this could be handled easily, as I feel that this would even be another challenge for them. How many IEPs are we violating? I can hear the timer. I just have one more thing. I'm asking the board to stop taking away from our children. We're taking their supports away layer by layer. Without a support system in place, we're surely setting ourselves up for a disaster. Our kids deserve so much better. Thank you.
Thank you, Courtney. We will take a 3-minute break now and then continue with our speakers. So I'll see everybody back here at 9:51. Okay, if you've returned, board members, please turn your cameras back on so I know you're here. Sean? I don't see Roe at the moment.
Katie, any word on if they've got it back up and running?
I was just going to ask Mr. Audi to address that and also ask Ginny or Mr. Del Priest. Paul, have we made any progress?
I'm afraid not. I'm afraid not, Katie.
Okay. I believe it was Mrs. Mead who mentioned she was streaming live on Facebook. Are we seeing other people able to do that? I mean, at least it's one more avenue of getting this out there. Thank you, Holly, for doing that.
Is anyone on maybe Rob Noon or Rondell, are they able to live stream it on the district page using Facebook Live? Like, I don't know if they're even on the meeting or if somebody from IT is able to. I'm concerned that we can't have a vote if public's not able to attend and participate.
I could speak to that.
Okay.
I'm quite confident that we are well within our the guidelines of the Sunshine Act, because all of those people who wanted to speak signed up, and that deadline has stopped. And they're all on here, and they all will have an opportunity to speak, if I'm not mistaken. Is that correct, Jenny?
There's about 3 or 4 of them that are not on. They're not, I can't find them.
You can't find them.
I can't find them in the attendees.
Okay, well, we don't know why they're not on. And just like when we have a brick and mortar board meeting, if that room is full, the room is full. We have an obligation to record our board meetings, and we're doing that. So this is being recorded. Those people who have asked to speak, who have expressed an interest to speak, as far as we know, are on here and have the ability to speak. So I'm confident that we are not in any way violating the Sunshine Act. Just as if we would do if this were being held in a room that was filled to capacity. The district would have the right to say we can't have any more people in this room. We're sorry.
I know my fear, it just bothers me a little bit because this is a big decision. It affects a lot of people. They're going to see it,
Well, they won't have the opportunity to see it live. They have the opportunity to watch the recording, and had they wanted to speak, they have the opportunity to do so. So I'm not talking about emotionally what's the right or wrong thing.
No, I know.
I'm talking about I think we're in complete compliance with the Sunshine Act. That's what I'm saying. That's my
Is there any way that it could be interpreted? Because it does require that meetings have prior notice, that the public can attend, participate, and comment. So are we limiting the ability for the public to attend?
We're not. The public has had the opportunity to attend. The room is full.
Ginny, is there any way that you can identify the missing speakers and perhaps redouble your efforts to try to contact them?
I can try to do that, certainly. Actually, the next one we have coming up, Margaret Flynn. I don't see her. I will try to get in touch with her by email.
And Ginny, these people also, I mean, I certainly, if there's an issue with getting into this room, I'm certainly concerned about that. But if people were getting a message that I would imagine you've had this instance where people have had a technical issue and have contacted you at other times to let you know a link wasn't working or something like that.
Right, and we would get them going. I'm trying to move people over, you know, if I know exactly who they are, to free up some space in the attendees, but then it fills up as soon as I move people over. So, but we'll try to get in touch with the people that I'm missing. So did you want me to move on to the next speaker?
Just before you do, I seem to have been locked out of the meeting on video. I think if you can hear me, raise a hand and wave.
Oh.
Okay, hang on. I'll try again now.
Okay, there you are.
Thank you,
okay.
Thank you very much.
What about just opening up the Zoom and keep a waiting room? I mean, we're only posting a lot of the issues with the Zoom because we made them public on Zoom. If we just post it on the Facebook or something like that, and we just keep a waiting room and we admit people, and then, you know, kind of let it open like that.
Well, we are working on it in the background now, if ever. So we're trying to figure this out right now.
Okay, thank you.
So let's continue with comment and we'll assess this situation when that's completed. And Ginny, I do see some other familiar names here, so as many people as you can click over would be wonderful.
Okay.
Thank you. I know we're asking you to do approximately 14 things at once right now.
That's
but
okay.
I also know everyone in this district is getting very used to that these days, and parents as well. So it's just par for the course.
I know Mr. Delpreet and I are on it. No worries.
Thank you very much.
And Paul, sorry, Paul.
No, no worries. I mean, we're working so diligently behind trying to get this to operate, and you know, short of having somebody hold a phone up to the screen, like that's kind of where we're at. I mean, we've been pretty seamless, but for some reason this evening, Zoom's just not cooperating with our streaming to any platform.
Do they have like a customer like support or anything?
I'd have to defer to Bill on that.
So I guess we're to the point right now where if that's what we need to do, Paul, do we have somebody that can do that right now? If that's what if we have individuals in the public doing it, I think we can do it.
Yep,
So can we get one of our individuals right now to do that?
Yep, I'm working on it.
Thank you.
Ready? Okay. Christina Horn.
Hi, can you hear me?
We can hear you.
I'm Christina Horn, Monticello, our building rep and SFT member. First and foremost, as you were just discussing, if you are not able to get this technical issue fixed tonight so that this meeting is streaming live to any member of the public that wants to view it, I ask that you please postpone tonight's furlough vote. I don't know Sunshine Law very well. I don't know if you're meeting the minimum requirements or not, but as you expect from us to do better than the minimum, I would expect that from the district. Issues like this contribute to the ongoing perception that Scranton is corrupt and lacks transparency, and I am sick and tired of the district and the city that I love being viewed that way. So those of you that are working to fix this tonight or talking about changing tonight's plan to vote, I really appreciate that. We see you and we appreciate you. If you do vote tonight, I ask that you do so in a way that minimizes the harm to our students and staff by voting against furloughing student-facing positions such as paras, PCAs, behavior techs, and behavior specialists. I don't want to see anyone furloughed, obviously, but to furlough those that interact directly with our students at such a challenging time seems particularly unnecessary and harmful. I ask that you please consider that these proposed furloughs include 20 staff from Monticello alone, my building, a building that has already lost 6 behavior techs to furloughs this summer, that serves the highest need student population in Scranton and surrounding districts, districts that pay us good money to provide supports that they cannot. Before voting, please know that these staff can and want to assist our students, us as teachers, and our administration during this incredibly difficult time. For example, our secondary behavior specialist, or instructional specialist 2 on the furlough list, spent 45 minutes today working with me on Google Meets with a single student, one student. I am one teacher in one classroom. She does this daily throughout the entire day with every teacher in our building or on our floor, and is actively engaging with students in Google Classroom throughout the day. These people want to be involved and they can be. Hazleton Area School District recently furloughed 200 employees and is keeping them on district insurance. This is not illegal. I urge Scranton to follow suit and again ask that if you vote to furlough any employee tonight, allow them to remain on district insurance at their per paycheck premium. This is in no way comparable to the incident with a certain former contractor, which our current board, administration, and council were not involved with. A furloughed employee and a non-employee are not the same thing. Do the right thing. Unrelated, I ask administration, the board, and whomever to please take care to thoroughly review the information going into developing the personnel report prior to it being published and voted on. There are at least 3 mistakes on tonight's list of teachers being approved for tenure. 2 employees missing that should be approved, and 1 who has been tenured for years that is on the list to be approved. Mistakes absolutely happen. I make plenty, and Mr. Castrovinci, I have to say thank you. I appreciate your quick response to the email I sent tonight about one of these issues. But I ask that you all put yourselves in the shoes of an employee who has waited years to be tenured, who has survived the 2017 furloughs, and looks at that list tonight while furloughs are happening in a district that's in financial recovery during a pandemic. Imagine how they feel. Imagine what they think. They looked at that list tonight and thought that they were being eliminated, and it's not right. We can do better, and I ask that you please do. Thank you.
Thank you, Christina.
Next, we have Marcia Johnson.
Hello, can you hear me?
Hi, we can hear you.
Thank you. Thanks for giving me the opportunity to speak tonight. I'm a health and phys ed teacher at Neil Armstrong Elementary. So listen, now is not the time to eliminate our paraprofessionals who are valuable members of the Scranton School District. The obvious question is, how will these students meet their IEPs without paraprofessionals? And remember that paras are incredibly helpful when it comes time to teach children with autism and to teach children with social and emotional disabilities. The definition of full inclusion reads, all children, regardless of ability or disability, have the right to be respected and appreciated as valuable members of the school community, fully participate in all school activities, and interact with peers of all ability levels with opportunities to develop friendships. Listen, I have seen these children shine and develop friendships in my class and other regular ed classes with the help of paraprofessionals. All students in the Scranton School District benefit with full inclusion. Paras also help students with physical disabilities. For example, if a Neil Armstrong student is in a wheelchair, they will need help with transportation down the stairs to my gymnasium. If Miss Ross is not there to help, who's responsible for the other students while I transport this wheelchair-bound student to the gymnasium? If a kindergarten student needs to use a restroom during my class, who will be responsible to supervise my students while I walk that child to the restroom? Do I ask my students to sit and wait? The same kids that only get phys ed once a week for 40 minutes? Mrs. Potter and all kindergarten paras allow us to conduct our jobs properly. They handle the little fires in kindergarten, such as tying shoelaces, taking a sick child to the nurse, or comforting a crying child. Our paras are also a tremendous help when I teach children with autism. For example, Miss Betty Ann will throw a ball to a student who needs help with one-on-one, and our paras are forever patient and give the necessary guidance to children with social and emotional disabilities. If a student is aggressive or having a bad day, the para will try to de-escalate their behavior by taking them for a walk, for example. Who will supervise the other students if there's no para and a child with an emotional disability runs outside the classroom or gymnasium? Besides providing students with help in the classroom, paraprofessionals monitor all children in the morning before classes begin. They supervise children during lunch and recess time. They assist students to and from buses, but most importantly, they tutor children who truly need extra help. So let's be serious. You use the word furlough, but we know from past practices that some of these lost job positions are gone forever when our staff members have been furloughed beforehand. Before you vote tonight, please remember that people need health insurance. Students need paraprofessionals. We need to show up and we need
I'm sorry,
to show...
Marcia, your time is up.
Okay, thank you. Just real quick, we need to show respect to our members and we need you to show up for them. I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you, Marcia.
Next, we have Diane Walsh, but I'm trying to get in touch with her, so we'll move on to Jennifer Zaleski.
Hi, Jenny. Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Okay. Good evening, Scranton Board of Directors. My name is Jennifer Zaleski, and I'm a member of the Scranton Federation of Teachers Executive Board. As we begin the second week of school in this district, I was wondering if any board members participated in any live educational sessions in the past week. My guess is going to be no. How many of the board members actually showed or shadowed a paraprofessional last week to learn their impact on the virtual education classroom? My guess is going to be none, if any of you. 2 weeks ago, parents, teachers, paraprofessionals, and the union president all spoke in an attempt to educate the members of the Scranton School Board regarding the necessity of the paraprofessionals in the Scranton School District. It was abundantly clear, if you were listening and focusing, that the paraprofessionals of the Scranton School District have many roles during this time of virtual learning. At that time, many speakers addressed how they directly impact students' lives and performance. So I'm left questioning how a member of the Scranton School Board would even say to the Scranton Times, the virtual model has eliminated the roles and functions many of the people fill. This means that the concerns and questions brought forth last meeting fell again on deaf ears. This means that no research was performed in the process of determining that paraprofessionals be furloughed. This means that no one is listening to speaker after speaker. Why are you all allowed not to answer the pertinent questions asked by your constituents? Come election time, I'm sure accountability to these constituents will become pertinent. Additionally, at the beginning of the 2020 school year, in-services were held. After many questions from myself regarding the in-services for these paraprofessionals, they were directed to watch videos and write up 2-page summaries of each video. Now, I can't understand how upper-level administrators decided this would be beneficial for 3 whole days. If I were to do that in my classroom, I would receive a needs improvement. There were no differentiation techniques or training for the virtual learning platforms. As a result, central administration decided to make the paraprofessionals write essays instead of learning how to assist the students of the Scranton School District virtually. Many of them learned, despite the district, how to utilize Google Meets and Zoom on their own so they could fully participate in the live virtual educational opportunities offered to our students. Despite being told the virtual model has eliminated the roles and functions many of the people fill, we, the teachers, parents, and paraprofessionals of the Scranton School District know that is simply untrue. In closing, I would again like to thank Kim Cavallati for all her hard work this week. Happy birthday. She has become a pro at Google Meets and Google Classroom on her own. She makes a difference in the lives of my students. And as always, as I close, does anyone have an update on the retirees incentive? I've been asking since April. I have still not received an answer. It is now September. Who and when will that answer come? Thank you.
Thank you, Jennifer.
Next, we have Patricia Carr.
Hi.
Hi,
Can you hear me?
Patricia, we can hear you.
Great. Thank you very much for letting me speak this evening. I've had the privilege of working in the Scranton School District for the past 25 years, starting in the special education department with a wonderful para at the John Marshall School. And I'd like to thank Mr. McAndrew, Mrs. Dempsey for just putting a hold on the actions of the last board meeting, just to hopefully determine about the furloughing and health insurance. In the past, I've never felt an urge to speak to the board, but I really needed to act on this today because my concern, of course, is the jobs of my colleagues, the paras who are easily, their whole special ed department, and they've prevented so many lawsuits in the past just every day that they go to work, because they're the people that can make the small groups happen while these special ed teachers working with another small group for the emotionally disturbed, the learning support kids, the autistic kids. There's just so many that they help. Did you realize that? Probably not, because you haven't visited a school to see us all in action. You've come to be the celebrity guest reader, which is nice, but you should visit on a day when a para administers a math test to a student with math manipulatives so they can actually count tactile, touch the blocks and everything to count to 10. Many of the paras who are on the agenda to furlough tonight will have great difficulty paying their rent with health insurance, even though they will be collecting unemployment. Paras have worked with small groups of kids this past spring. Some brought workbooks to the kids' houses who are unable to successfully log on to the computers to have a learning experience. Could we hire vans to possibly bring our most needy kids to a large classroom to work with small groups of kids at schools? Of course, monitoring everybody's health with temperatures and wearing masks, but this could possibly prevent another lawsuit from being filed against our school district. It's just an idea. Another idea is possibly to consider looking at the Pennsylvania Shared Work Program. Just consider the people that involved in this furlough decision, not just the dollars. Thank you.
I'm on right now. No, not yet.
Okay, next we have Lisa Tunis, but I have a couple Lisas out there. There's
Jenny, before you move forward, Katie, can you please make the that announcement, please? You're on mute.
She said,
Thank you. I apologize. Ms. Artistani at McNichols Plaza has this up live on their Facebook page. So it seems people are really trying to help us out here, and I certainly do appreciate that. Thank you. We've also made a little bit of room by moving some people around, and I believe that's going up on the Facebook page to alert people as well. Thanks.
Yes, and Paul, can you give me an announcement, or can you give me an update on what Ronell Barrett is doing, please? I apologize, but I just want to make sure everybody knows
Absolutely,
exactly.
and I apologize for having my screen off. I'm trying to manage a bunch of things to get here up and running. We just got through another site, we just got a screen to share, so it should be going live on our district website right now. But it is also live right now, and I think you just said this on the McNichols Plaza or on their site as live.
And it's also live on Sumner and Adams also.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm sorry.
All
Thank
of the IT people and the principals who are making this happen. So thanks
a lot. Okay, next we have Ty Holmes.
Hi, how are you? Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Hi, good evening. My name is Ty Holmes. I'm speaking tonight in my capacity as the Vice President of the Organizing Chapter Committee of the Lackawanna County branch of the NAACP. While in many of your minds, the decision to furlough paraprofessionals has been made, I hope to help you make a more informed decision that will better serve our students, taxpayers, and will the struggling school district. Taxpayers and parents and district staff understand after decades of mismanagement that the Scranton School District is in disarray. We get it. We see the students' lack of basic supplies and resources. We see the buildings are not environmental standards. We know the teachers have gone without a pay raise in years, and we see them leaving for neighboring districts. The question is, does the administration get it? Has anyone in the leadership or administration offered to take a pay cut, freeze, of 20%? Throughout the pandemic, thriving companies, large and small, have stopped all unnecessary travel, entertainment, and eliminated pay raises and bonuses, and implemented this at the highest levels of their organization. Yet here in the struggling Scranton School District, I believe our superintendent received her regular pay raise this summer, and no administrative pay cuts were implemented, while teachers are now going on multiple years without the pay increase. Have you considered furloughing administrators, specifically those who do not work in the school building directly with students? You could save more while retaining the workers who are actually providing a low-cost, high-value benefit to teachers and students. Administrators who normally would be better in financial position than the paraprofessionals to absorb the loss of income and health benefits, as their unemployment benefits alone would be significantly greater. Scranton's large economic disadvantaged population includes a high percentage of special needs students, people of color, and non-native English speakers. Paraprofessionals are critical to our resources needed to support and help level the educational playing field for these vulnerable populations. In your consideration of ways to achieve saving money aimed at the district's long-standing financial crisis, I humbly ask that you require leadership from the administration in the form of their pay cuts and furloughs before taking the steps like furloughing paraprofessionals, which would negatively affect students when they are at their most vulnerable. Thank you.
Thank you, Ty.
Next, we have Kristen Bond.
Hello, my name is Kristen Bond. I'm a parent at Northeast Intermediate. More importantly, I'm a parent of a senior at Scranton High and a third grader at Robert Morris. I just want to say that I feel sad for the children in the district. It's not the same district that it was when I attended. The board and administration continue to take important things away from them. First it was library and the arts. You even took away the computer classes, and now you expect the children to properly navigate through virtual learning. Next you eliminated preschool, which was federally funded. Now you want to cut the support staff from the special education students. It will hurt the district in its entirety, the students, the teachers, and the parents. The ship has already started sinking. Great teachers are leaving our district. At just Northeast alone, since 2019, we have lost many great teachers. Sarah Krakovich, Lauren Flipkowski, Chris Geneleza, Pat Gahan, Frank Spager, John Kirby, Kristen Riley, and Greg Janikopoulos. Who is going to want to join the Circus Act now? Employees from Kelly Services? Do the parents even know that you don't even need a teaching certificate to be a substitute teacher? I'm out of words, shaking my head. I hate to even say this, but maybe the kids would be better off if the state took over, because I don't feel that you people have the same, that you guys have the, seem to have the best interest for our children. Our children deserve better. Please consider what's best for the children and their future when you're voting tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Kristen.
Okay, next we have Margaret Flynn.
Hi, how are you? Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Okay. Hi,
My name is Margaret Flynn. I work in the special education department in the life skills room at Francis Willard Elementary. My job as a para or a teacher's assistant is to aid and assist a teacher with educating the students in the district. And although we're not physically in the brick and mortar setting, my responsibility is still vital to the growth of the children of the program. I do have a question. How do you expect the teachers to allocate the required time to work with students with disabilities while maintaining the integrity of the curriculum? The life skills room is a unique classroom. The children's disabilities range from kindergarten through 5th grade, and my role is very imperative to aid Mr. Barakai in the balance of the amount of time focused on each student. Last year, we were told the lessons were for enrichment purposes. This year has been different. Live lessons are required, attendance must be recorded and reported. Students are responsible for the work assigned, progress monitoring is to be conducted, communication logs are to be kept, maintenance of the virtual classroom. There's a lot of work to be done. Also, there's an increase in the amount of emails and technical questions from parents, the administration, and peers, as well as an overwhelming increase in special education paperwork. Teachers need our assistance now more than ever. I would like you to reconsider voting no to furlough the paras. Thank you.
Thank you, Margaret.
Okay, I think that's it, Ms. Gilmartin. I'm not able to find anyone else. I did email a couple people and they were able to get back on.
You're muted, Katie.
Thank you. I'm sorry. I see only two names on this list who did not come forward.
Right.
Okay. Thank you very much for all your efforts, Ginny, to get in touch with everybody. And I have noticed that there's been some space in the attendees in the last few minutes. So with your efforts to reach people and the room in the room, they should have been able to access it if they needed to. And Paul has also just let me know that this is streaming live now on the district Facebook page. Am I correct, Paul?
Yes, that's accurate.
Wonderful. All right, great. Thank you very much, everybody. I, again, appreciate all that hard work and scrambling to get this technology going. Thank you. So we'll move on to our agenda items. May I have a motion to approve the meeting minutes of August 31st, 2020?
I'll make that motion.
May I have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Sorry.
That's okay, Jenny. Motion carries. Thank you.
We're done.
May I have a motion to approve the items on the consent agenda?
I so move.
May I have a second?
Second.
Roll call, please, Mrs. Orr.
Ms. Cruz?
Yes.
Mrs. Dempsey?
Yes.
Ms. Hume?
Yes.
Mr. Malloy?
Yes.
Mr. McAndrew?
Yes.
Mrs. Welby?
Yes.
Mrs. Gianni?
Yes.
Ms. Gilmartin?
Yes.
8 affirmative.
Thank you. Budget and Finance Director Yanni, we will have a motion B11, a motion to award the RFP for the Northeast Portico to D&M Construction in the amount of $74,803.
So moved.
May I have a second?
I'll second.
On the question? I'm sorry, I just realized I didn't on the question for consent agenda. Well, on the question for this motion, I apologize. Nothing on the question. Roll call, please, Mrs. Orr.
Mrs. Dempsey?
Yes.
Ms. Hume?
Yes.
Mr. Malloy?
Yes.
Mr. McAndrew?
Yes.
Mrs. Welby?
Yes.
Mrs. Yanni?
Yes.
Ms. Cruz?
Yes.
Ms. Martin?
Yes.
8 affirmative.
Does anyone have any comments on the consent agenda? Thank you. Again, I'm sorry. We will have a motion to approve the capital projects bill list. The financial impact is $470,729.93.
So moved.
May I have a second?
I'll second.
On the question?
On the question, am I muted? No. On the question, I noticed that the capital improvement bill list includes some payments to Datum and to Lycoming for the asbestos packages that were let during the summer works. And I just wanted to say that at the recent meeting of the Environmental Task Force, the minutes of which are up on the website and of which I will give a report next month, but the work on the asbestos abatement throughout the summer for the district is completed. Northeast Intermediate is, I gather, 100% asbestos free now. A slight round of applause would be nice. And the work that Lycoming and Datum have done came in on time, under budget, and very well done.
Thank you, Director Hume. Anyone else?
Just want to, if I may, I just want to point out that that's referring to the new side of Northeast. On the old side of Northeast, we did not move ahead to abate that ventilation system. In fact, but I will be providing a full update about our summer abatement packages at the next work session, which I think is September 28th.
Yeah, thanks. Sorry, Paul. I just felt that it was nice to have something nice to say.
Believe me, I agree. I agree very much.
Thank you, Paul.
Thank you.
Roll call, Mrs. Orr?
Ms. Hume?
Yes.
Mr. Malloy?
Yes.
Mr. McAndrew?
Yes.
Mrs. Welby?
Yes.
Mrs. Yanni?
Yes.
Ms. Cruz?
Yes.
Mrs. Dempsey?
Yes.
Ms. Martin?
Yes.
8 affirmative.
Thank you. We will have B13. We will have a motion to award underwriting services for the 2020 general obligation bonds to the combination of Benning and Scattergood, PNC Capital Markets, and RBC Capital Markets.
I so move.
May I have a second?
I'll second.
On the question? I believe we have Mr. Laffey and or Mr. Vind on the call. Could you just give us a very brief overview of this matter and why we're proposing 3 firms?
Certainly. As you're aware, the district will be going out to market for approximately a $30 million general obligation bond for the anticipated capital project plan that was presented earlier this evening. A RFQ was presented earlier in the summer, publicly advertised and for 3 weeks. We received 7 competitive proposals. A scoring matrix was prepared, applying a weight that was based off of like total cost or pricing of the to the district, experience working with the Scranton School District, capital position, underwriting discount fees, distribution capabilities, and also experience working with other districts in receivership or recovery. Based on that matrix, these 3 firms were the 3 highest scores. 2 of them were virtually on top of one another, and the third has a long history of working with the Scranton School District and is very familiar with our current structure. So that is why we are presenting the 3 firms to you this evening. And again, as you noted, Mr. Mike Vinn is here if there's any more technical questions related to the process.
Anybody have any questions? Thank you, Pat.
Welcome.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Malloy?
Yes.
Mr. McAndrew?
Yes.
Mrs. Welby,
Yes.
Mrs. Yanni,
Yes.
Ms. Cruz,
Yes.
Mrs. Dempsey,
Yes.
Ms. Hume,
Yes.
Ms. Gilmartin,
Yes.
8 affirmative.
Community Relations, C1. We will have a motion to approve the Wright Center's use of West Scranton Intermediate on Saturday, September 19th, 2020 for a food drive. Just so everyone has the information, the food drive will be conducted from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. at West Scranton Intermediate School.
I so move.
Thank you. May I have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I'm sorry, question, on the question. I apologize. I caught myself that time.
Yes, I'd just like to thank the Wright Center and the Weinberg Food Bank for continuing to provide this very unfortunately necessary event in our time. And there's a lot of people in our community now more than ever who are food vulnerable. So I just want to thank them for this.
Thank you, Sarah. Anybody else? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carried. C2, we will have a motion to approve the Commission on Economic Opportunity Weinberg Northeast Regional Food Bank Memorandum of Understanding as indicated above. This is an ongoing partnership with Weinberg's CEO, and although the due to COVID school closures, there is a prohibition against in-person nutrition education. They wanted to have this document on file and will allow the CEO to work with the district should they desire to provide virtual nutrition education to students or families, and also allow CEO to continue the children's produce market, obviously keeping in mind the impact of building closures and COVID restrictions.
So moved.
The second?
I'll second.
On the question? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. We will have D2, Education, a motion to authorize Superintendent Melissa McTiernan to sign and submit electronically any and all contracts, agreements, grants, and/or licenses with the Pennsylvania Department of Education.
So moved.
Have a
I'll
second?
second.
On the question?
I just have a quick question on that. What I don't have any problem with it, but why is there a problem now? Is it just it's easier to do it that way?
Well, yeah, right now the problem is because we haven't gone through this process. When I sign off on grants, I have to do it on paper, and then we have to upload the document. And it's just an extra, whereas once you give me the authority to sign off electronically, then I literally go in, click, accept, and that's all. So that's just the paper. I'm signing off on this now, but I can't do it electronically until you give me the authority to do that.
Okay, thanks.
Sure.
If I may, there's also some forms that we have to deal with that would actually require an electronic signature.
Oh. The world moves on.
Thank you. Anybody else? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. D3, we will have a motion to approve the 2020-2021 cyber handbooks as previously submitted for board review.
So moved.
May I have a second?
I'll second.
On the question?
I just want to congratulate whoever did it. It's very thorough. It's very easy to understand. I think in this time of COVID, the more we know about the smooth functioning of these things, I won't say that it's going to replace Gone with the Wind on the bestseller list, but it is a wonderful handbook and it's very well done, and whoever did it, well done.
Thank you, Ro. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Operations E1, we will have a motion to approve the contract extension agreement with Lackawanna College as outlined in the agreement previously submitted for board review. This is for Lackawanna College and Scranton School District for the use of Scranton High School's baseball and softball fields, for the time period of August 1st, 2019 through July 31st of 2027, 8 years, and shall pay the Scranton School District $1 per year during the term of this agreement. This is a contract extension of the agreement made on November 19th, 2019.
So moved.
May I have a second?
I'll second.
On the question?
On the question, I do just have one question. The contract, does that include any work to be done? Does this include any work that agreements to be done on irrigation or things like that, or is that a separate contractual agreement?
Majority, Director Dempsey, the majority of the work that's being done to our baseball and softball fields is the agreement that Lackawanna will do to improvements over the course of the years.
Okay, thank you.
Does that affect our contract with the maintenance union or anything like that?
No.
Okay.
No, they're fully aboard on that too.
Okay.
Anybody else? Roll call, please.
Mr. McAndrew?
Yes.
Mrs. Welby?
Yes.
Mrs. Yanni?
Yes.
Ms. Cruz?
Yes.
Mrs. Dempsey?
Yes.
Ms. Hume?
Yes.
Mr. Malloy?
Yes.
Ms. Martin?
Yes.
8 affirmative.
E2, we will have a motion to approve a memorandum of understanding with the University of Scranton track team. This is a partnership for the usage of Scranton Memorial Stadium and the baseball field within the Quinn campus under the terms and conditions as attached.
So moved.
May I have a second?
I'll second.
Second.
On the question? Roll call, please.
Mrs. Welby?
Yes.
Mrs. Yanni?
Yes.
Ms. Cruz?
Yes.
Mrs. Dempsey?
Yes.
Ms. Hume?
Yes.
Mr. Malloy?
Yes.
Mr. McAndrew?
Yes.
Ms. Martin?
Yes.
8 affirmative.
E3, we will have a motion to retain the services of Keystone Sports Construction to provide synthetic turf maintenance services for a period of 5 years. The financial impact is $14,250 over those 5 years.
So moved.
I'll second.
On the question? Roll call, please, Mrs. Orr.
Mrs. Yanni?
Yes.
Ms. Cruz?
Yes.
Mrs. Dempsey?
Yes.
Ms. Hume?
Yes.
Mr. Malloy?
Yes.
Mr. McAndrew?
Yes.
Mrs. Welby?
Yes.
Ms. Martin?
Yes.
8 affirmative.
F1, a motion is in order to furlough with regret, effective close of business on September 11th, 2020, the following positions: 140 paraprofessionals, 6 intervention specialists, 2 level 2 intervention specialists, 4 part-time maintenance, 1 LPN at Prescott Willard, 1 clerk at South Scranton Intermediate School, 1 clerk at West Side Intermediate School, 2 hall monitors at Northeast Intermediate School and South Intermediate School, 2 general custodians, West Side High School and McNichols Plaza, and 64 crossing guards, and to authorize the superintendent to recall any furloughed employee as needed.
So moved. Have anything?
Second?
I'll second.
I wish to move a friendly amendment to this motion. Do I move the motion? Move the amended motion?
Yes, please.
A friendly amendment is offered in the following form. A motion is in order to furlough with great regret, effective close of business on September 30th, 2020, the following positions. 140 paraprofessionals, 6 intervention specialists, 2 level 2 intervention specialists, 4 part-time maintenance, 1 LPN at Prescott Willard, 1 clerk, South Intermediate School, 64 crossing guards, and to authorize the superintendent to recall any furloughed employee as needed. Prescription benefits will terminate per contract the first of the month after 30 days from the last day of work. Medical benefits will expire the last day of employment.
May I have a second on the friendly amendment?
I'll second.
On the question of the friendly amendment.
May I ask Mr. Audie a question? I wanted to make a friendly amendment on this amendment. How would I do that? Or would I wait for this one to go through and then make a friendly amendment on that?
This needs to be addressed first.
Thank you.
Anybody on the question of the friendly amendment as stated? Do we need to read that back, or are we all comfortable?
On the question,
Pardon me, that was a poor choice of words. I'm sorry, Michelle.
Just to clarify, the change was we removed 2 hall monitors, 2 general custodians, and 1 clerk at West Intermediate. Is that correct?
I believe so.
I think. I just want to make sure that I heard it.
John
correct.
Castrovinci, can you verify that, please?
Sure can. 1 second.
I'm sorry to put you on the spot, John.
While he's checking that, may I add that there's additional language also about prescription benefits?
Thank
you.
you.
Right. Prescription benefits are 30 days from the date of furlough?
30 days from the first of the month after 30 days from the last day of work, which would be November 1st.
November 1st. Okay, thank you.
And medical benefits would expire the last day of employment.
Okay. And John, we speak on the question after the amendment's been adopted, and then we speak on the question?
Yes. We could speak, yes.
Yes. We are speaking on the question of the amendment at this point.
Correct.
Yes.
On the question of the friendly amendment, I'd like it to be read again, please.
Sure. Mr. Castrovinci, will you just clarify that we understand the numbers?
Sure. I'm just calling up an email.
Okay. Perhaps if I read the amendment again, Jim?
Yes, please.
Okay. A motion is in order to furlough with great regret, effective close of business on September 30, 2020, the following positions: 140 paraprofessionals, 6 intervention specialists, 2 level 2 intervention specialists, 4 part-time maintenance, 1 LPN, Prescott Willard, 1 clerk, South Intermediate School, 64 crossing guards, and to authorize the superintendent to recall any furloughed employee as needed. Prescription benefits will terminate per contract the first of the month after 30 days from the last day of work. Medical benefits will expire the last day of employment.
Thank you.
And Mr. Castrovinci, is Mrs. Dempsey's understanding of those numbers accurate?
Yeah, I have it. 140 paraprofessionals, 6 intervention specialists, 2 level 2 intervention specialists, 4 part-time maintenance, 1 LPN Prescott and Willard, 1 clerk South Intermediate School, and 64 crossing guards.
Thank you, Mr. Castrovinci.
You're welcome.
And I just have a quick question to clarify. So the last meeting we had, the information that we were given regarding the number of employees and also some of the benefits was incorrect, correct?
No. That was the motion that we tabled. We're now moving a friendly amendment to amend that meeting. Doesn't mean that motion was incorrect. It means that we are making a friendly amendment to change that motion.
Well, we're changing the numbers in the information because the first motion was the information was incorrect.
No, the information was neither correct or incorrect. We could vote on it. We could do that. But the motion itself is neither correct nor incorrect. It is a motion.
Okay.
Well, the original numbers.
I think, Ro, what Mr. McAndrew is getting at is that there was confusion. I'm not finding good words at this moment, but there was some question as to whether the proposed furloughs from the SEIU membership fell in line with the 184 individuals. There have also been some resignations that have impacted, as always happens, information changes and evolves, and we are constantly reacting to it and updating as needed. So yes, Mr. McAndrew, to your point, these numbers have changed since last we spoke.
And Director Gilmartin, I can shed a little bit of light on what he may be referring to. We had several maintenance employees who exceeded 1 year on workers' comp, and in correcting that situation, I inadvertently counted them as employees towards the number, but they in fact are on indefinite furlough.
And Mr. Kasrovich, that was 3, correct? It was just 3 as a part of the total, I believe.
Yes, and then we, as Ms. Director Gilmartin said, we had resignations and such. We were allowed to, and I confirmed that with Lou Ann Hennahan today. We were allowed to eliminate 2 positions.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And since we are discussing it, could you just clarify that 184 number, Mr. Castrovinci, why it is that we are beholden to that?
Well, it's contract language that we are to maintain a minimum staffing in that bargaining unit.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Is there anything else on the question of the friendly amendment, which changes the date, the impacted positions, the number of individuals impacted, and outlines the implications on benefits?
Just on the question, this is more of a statement and a point of clarification for everyone that commented tonight and everything. Parent of 4 children. I've had experiences with paraprofessionals in the kindergarten and preschool settings. They were invaluable, but I have not had an experience with a paraprofessional since that point in time. We have to make hard decisions. My head and my heart are not aligned, but we have to do what's we have fiduciary responsibilities to taxpayers. With that said, we are furloughing these 140 paraprofessionals. However, I believe in the friendly amendment, it does state that Superintendent McTiernan will recall based on seniority. And I believe positions that are required by contract to fulfill our obligations for the special needs students and other avenues within education will be met. And please correct me if I'm wrong, Superintendent McTiernan, but that is the ultimate goal. We don't plan on just decimating paraprofessionals and not fulfilling our obligations to the students. That's all I wanted to say.
Director Dempsey, you are correct. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So on the question of the, Tara?
I just want to clarify what we're voting on now. So
We are voting on the friendly amendment. So we are voting on the change in the language.
okay, and then if that passes, then
Yeah.
I could make a friendly amendment to change the language again.
That's right. You would have the right to make a friendly amendment.
All right, thank you. Thank you.
Whether it passes or whether it fails, you still have the right to make a friendly amendment.
So on the question of the friendly amendment as read by Director Hume. Roll call, please, Mrs. Orr.
Ms. Cruz?
Yes.
Mrs. Dempsey?
Yes.
Ms. Hume?
Yes.
Mr. Malloy?
Yes.
Mr. McAndrew?
Yes.
Mrs. Welby?
Yes.
Mrs. Yanni?
No.
Ms. Gilmartin?
Yes.
7 affirmative, 1 negative, motion passes.
So now we have the motion as amended. Ro, would you like to, since you have that in front of you, shall we repeat it or?
I'm happy to repeat it. I was wondering whether Director, then I read it and then she makes her friendly amendment.
I think that's the cleanest way, yes. Thank you.
A motion is in order to furlough with great regret, effective close of business on September 30, 2020, the following positions: 140 paraprofessionals, 6 intervention specialists, 2 level 2 intervention specialists, 4 part-time maintenance, 1 PN at Prescott Willard, 1 clerk, South Intermediate School, 64 crossing guards, and to authorize the superintendent to recall any furloughed employee as needed. Prescription benefits will terminate per contract the first of the month after 30 days from the last day of work. Medical benefits will expire the last day of employment.
Okay, so
I need a second on that motion.
I'll second.
Okay. On the question?
this when I do it.
First of all, on the question, can we all agree that when Rose says Clark, it's clerk?
Yes.
Thought that might need some clarification. Okay.
Thank you.
What can I say?
So what I would like to make a friendly amendment stating is after the last sentence where it says, and to authorize the superintendent to recall any furloughed employee as needed, period, rather than what the amendment currently states. And I do need legal help with this, Attorney Audie, to put this into the right words. But what I'd like to say is instead of medical benefits to expire at the time of the furlough, that medical benefits are to be extended to employees for the time of the furlough and allow them to pay as they normally pay into that.
I think you said it very well.
Okay.
So that's your amendment. Do we have a second
I'll second it.
on the question? And we do have Ms. Picard from Millennium Administrators on the call if we have any questions for her. Mr. Audi, would you once again reiterate your legal opinion?
Sure.
Thank you.
Yes. As solicitor to the Scranton Area School District, I offer this legal opinion, not on an emotional level, but on a legal level. The question was posed to me, can we extend health benefits beyond the date of the furlough? And I thought to myself, that would be very nice. I think that would be something I would look to try to accomplish. And in doing so, I did a few things. one of the first things I did was to find out whether the policies of the actual health benefits would allow us to do that. And in doing so, I spoke with Sarah Picard. And Sarah said to me that if we wanted to do that, it's something that the insurance policies, they would cover and we'd be allowed to do it. So I thought, okay, insurance-wise, we're fine. How about the school code? Does the school code allow us to do this? And I suspected in my own 30-some years of experience that it might not. I believed that perhaps there would be a problem with compensating a former employee for services that have not been rendered. So I started to look into that idea. And in doing so, I found in the school code, which I knew existed, under section 513 of the school code, a provision that allows school districts to provide health benefits to its employees and to retirees. That's who it's allowed to provide health benefits to: employees, their spouses, dependents, and retired employees. That's who it says we can provide health benefits to. And I always knew, and this was the reason that I believed that it might be a problem, there is a section.
Did he freeze?
Yep. Zoom God.
610 of the school code, which, did I freeze?
Yes.
Am I there now?
You're
Yeah.
good.
Yes.
Okay. So I'll repeat myself. Section 610 of the school code, 24 section 6-610, talks about use of school funds and illegal uses of school funds. And the last sentence of that two-sentence act says, the use or payment of any public school funds of any school district in any manner or for any purpose not provided in this act shall be illegal. And I know for a fact that under section 1150 of the school code, schools have been assessed for spending monies on the school code, under the school code, that they have not been authorized to expend. Now, I take that and I place that on top of this being Scranton School District, where we are under all kinds of investigations, auditor generals, newspaper reporters, community taxpayers. And I know that if I provide an opinion that says, well, nobody's going to mind if you do pay these poor employees who are being furloughed, if you pay them their health benefits, no one's going to mind. If I give that advice that you can do that, and the community files a lawsuit saying you didn't have the authorization to expend that money, we're going to be having serious problems. In addition to that, the auditors will come in and they will likely, and may likely, assess us fines and penalties. Now, I'm not going to be responsible for that. So I have no choice but to provide the advice that I provided from my firm of Sweet Stevens, Katz & Williams to this Scranton School District. Now, I know I've heard other school districts are doing this. And that may be. I'm not disputing that they're doing that. But I don't know what their legal basis is. And I don't know if they're under the spotlight that we're under. And I don't agree that it's authorized under the school code to do this. Now, I used as an example the last time I spoke, this very district got in trouble for paying a non-employee money, through the form of benefits for services not performed. And I got yelled at by saying that's a different situation. The facts are different, I agree. That person was never an employee of the school code, of the school. However, once these employees today, if they're furloughed, they're past employees, they're not current employees. And legally, I don't know that there's a great distinction. Yes, emotionally, there's a giant distinction. Yes, do I believe that anybody who gets furloughed should have benefits? Yeah, I believe that. My son's furloughed. He's not getting benefits. I wish he were. But I could tell you, if I give a legal opinion that states that we're within our rights, I don't think I would be doing a service to this school district. I'd be speaking emotionally and not legally. And the way that this school district is under the spotlight, I don't think it would pass unnoticed. So unfortunately, it's my legal advice and my opinion, which has been well vetted, by the way, by many attorneys in my firm who have done years and years of school law exclusively, that we're not authorized to expend this money. Now, if this board wants to vote differently, that's well within your right to. Because we can, as Sarah Picard will tell you, we could insure anybody we want to. I could pull a name out of the hat and tell Sarah Picard, insure this person. We're paying the bill. She'll do it because that's appropriate. So that's my answer to whether or not it's legal. Now, I will tell you that we have found, unbeknownst to me, that in 2010, apparently, there was an agreement between the district and the union for prescriptions to allow employees to have a 30-day grace period. It's written in the synopsis of the prescription plan. I've seen it with my own two eyes. I can't say we're not going to honor that contract. We will honor that contract. It's equally unlawful for me to say a contract provision is unlawful so that we negotiate it and therefore we won't follow it. That's equally unlawful. So we have that provision. We'll live by that provision. But I will tell you, I asked for the medical benefits plans, and I've seen them, and I have them, and they specifically say that a person who has reduced hours on furlough will go on COBRA. And that's what that plan says. So we're not required to extend those benefits. And I don't feel that I have the authority to tell this district they can expend that money when I don't see where it's allowed for under the school code. I hope that answers your question.
Thank you, John. I also believe you've mentioned on several occasions that the expiration of Act 13, you feel
another, thank you. Another reason that I did take into consideration when I was deciding what I thought the legal action was, when I was analyzing this. Well, when March came and COVID came and schools had to close, we found out that we weren't going to be able to keep our bus companies. We weren't going to be able to keep the people who would have to be furloughed because they'd go out and get jobs somewhere else. To prevent that from happening, the state passed, as we all know, Act 13, which authorized us to pay past employees for work they haven't performed. Contractors, bus contractors, they weren't driving students anywhere, but we knew we'd lose them because people would wander off and get other jobs, and there's a shortage of them. And the same with our support staff. We knew that there was a likelihood we'd lose in the state. To correct that, said, you're allowed to pay these people even though they didn't perform a service, but you must stop doing so on June 30th of 2020. That would not extend any further. So when you couple that with the specific restrictions in the school code, I don't see how I can give a legal opinion that says, go ahead, do the right thing, do the kind thing, do the humane thing, and pay these employees benefits. Because there's going to be taxpayers who are going to say, what about my benefits that I lost? I can't afford to pay those. And they're going to sue us for doing something that we didn't have the authority to do. Thank you, Katie. I forgot that was another.
Thank you. And John, you also referenced the two documents, the two policies. And I know Ms. Picard is still on the call, and I appreciate you staying with us all these hours. Ms. Picard, would you concur that Mr. Rowdy's description of these two documents and what they state is accurate, that the prescription policy does extend 30 days from the date of the first of the month, 30 days past the date of termination, and that the medical benefits policy sends people to COBRA once they are no longer working with us?
You're on mute, Sarah. Sarah, you're on mute.
There you go. Yep. Thank you, Sarah.
So yes, you are correct. As John indicated, the pharmacy plan document was modified in 2010 with the 30-day grace period. The medical document, plan document, was never revised to reflect the pharmacy plan documents. So it's still in place, and as John indicated, your medical benefits, any individual can be terminated the moment that the district notifies that member. However, on the pharmacy component, that does not occur. And it occurred because back in 2010, there were a couple individuals that were furloughed, and one of the individuals happened to be ill. So the administration at the time asked to have that modified because they were going through chemo, and the chemo was being administered by a physician. So they did not want this person to be left without some form of health care until they found another alternative. And that is the history behind those two disparities, so to speak. So the goal going forward will be to bring them together and to match them so that we'll have a policy in place that will be solid and firm going forward for situations like this one.
Thank you. And would you agree that the amendment, the previous amendment, I know this is a bit confusing at this point, but the amendment as stated by Director Hume is in line with these two policies?
It is, correct.
Thank you very much.
Ms. Picard,
yes.
Would you mind identifying yourself in the easiest possible to understand terms and what your relationship is to the district, please?
I am Sarah Picard, the president of Millennium Administrators, and I am your healthcare consultant / broker for healthcare benefits.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
May I ask another question of Mr. Audie?
Of course.
Okay, and I just want to say I have the utmost respect for your legal opinion, Mr. Audie, and I understand that you are completely doing what you need to do to protect this board and this district. And I absolutely appreciate that.
Thank you.
And I think the public needs to understand that as a board, we can't talk other than now on the floor. So we all have questions and we're trying to understand everything that's going on. So this is when we have to, make sense of all of this when we're together as a group, because the Sunshine Act does not allow us to speak about all of this. Otherwise, we would come across as having all of this together before we came out here, but we're trying to follow the law there. So one of the questions I have is, and I've been trying to do a lot of research on this, because you're referring to the school code saying that former employees are not eligible for benefits or paying out anything on benefits. So the definition of furlough versus laid off, every definition I read of furlough says that they are still employees, but they generally do not keep employment benefits such as health insurance. So that's from dictionary.com. So I think, could that come into play here, the definition of furlough? Are they still employees of the district?
I don't look at it that way, because there's no guarantee they will be recalled. I don't believe that's true, and I think you just said it yourself, when a furloughed employee typically does not continue to receive health benefits. This has been, and I understand we're in uncharted territories here.
Right.
And if I could say to you, give them health benefits, I would. I really, truly would.
I might have misspoke, because it says people are not paid during furloughs, but they do keep employment benefits such as health.
That's not true. That's just not been true with school law ever.
Okay. Right. And that's the issue here, is we are in.
This is the first time I would imagine anywhere in all of Pennsylvania, the first period where there's been furloughs where the board might have considered paying the benefits, because the expectation is that they'll be back to work fairly soon, and during a pandemic, it would be a very difficult hardship. I think that's the concept behind it. While I understand that, the flip side is there's taxpayers that we're accountable to, and they might not feel the same way. They might not feel that their monies can go for the goodwill of those group of employees, while they themselves or their family members or their neighbors are not getting that same benefit. So I need to take my emotion out of it and give you the legal opinion I have. Others can differ. I'm sure of that. I know, we talked about Hazleton, and they have, they've gotten opinions from their solicitor, apparently different than ours, but that is our legal opinion at Sweet Stevens. And I can tell you that our firm does more school law than almost any other firm in the state, if not any other firm in the state. We don't dabble in education law. That's what we do. And that's our legal opinion on this matter. And I have to stand by it for the reasons I expressed, regardless of my emotional impact on it. It breaks my heart as well. I know many people don't think so, but that's not true.
I appreciate that. I do.
Can we maybe seek legal opinion from the state?
Let's keep it on.
The state will never give you that legal opinion. I mean, you may try to get it, but they'll never do that. I mean, that would be like, we could ask SFT if they're willing to, pay any assessments that we might get. I mean, we could ask a lot of people a lot of different things, but we're not going to get an answer directly. If we did, that would be wonderful. And I think we got our answer in March. Last March, they said to us, go ahead, pay people for not performing a service, but only do that through June 30th. We got that answer.
Mr. Audi, I just have a question. Does the current prescription plan violate school code? And does school code trump the prescription plan, or does the prescription plan trump the school code?
Well, that's a great question, and you're putting me in a very difficult position. But I'll answer it to the best of my ability.
Okay.
I believe it exceeds the school code. However, I also know there's United States Supreme Court case law, Pennsylvania Supreme Court case law that says once you enter into an agreement, the person who entered into that agreement can no longer say that agreement's unlawful, therefore we will not abide by it. And I could cite you the cases, but there's no point in doing that. In fact, ironically, one of those cases is a Scranton case. So what goes around comes around. But therefore, my advice was, we need to honor this contract, because we would be violating the law on a different level if we didn't do that. At least we have the agreement to say, well, we had an obligation to do this. We've negotiated this obligation. I mean, think about it. What if we were to say, we'll pay anybody's bill if they ever worked here in the Scranton School District, and once they leave, we're going to cover them forever. We can't, I mean, there's limitations on what you're allowed to pay and what you're allowed to agree to. I think that one probably is hairline. I would not have entered into that agreement, but that's not, I wasn't there in 2010.
Right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Attorney Audi, may I ask, it seems to me that the gist of this issue is on the interpretation of the term employee in section 513 of the school code. So if you don't mind my asking, do you think that it's black letter law that furloughed employees do not qualify as employees under section 513, or do you think that there is some level of interpretation possible there?
No, I think they're not, they're former employees. They're not employees. Someone who's on an unpaid leave, for example, for a year, that's still an employee. They're still considered active. Even though they may be getting no salary, no benefits, we know they're coming back. We can't say that of the furloughed employees. We don't know that. We don't know how long it'll be. They're former employees. They have a recall right, of course, but that doesn't mean they have a recall to employment with this district. I believe it's black letter. I've never seen it interpreted any other way.
Thank you.
Do we know, are we still paying the benefits for the individuals that went on workman's comp that are now considered furloughed employees?
We paid their benefits, I believe, John, correct me if I'm wrong, I think we pay their benefits for the year. And then the contract states that after a year, they become furloughed and we no longer had to pay their benefits.
So we're not.
We're no longer paying them. That's correct.
Correct.
So John, that would seem to me, she said, am I muted? Hang on. Yes.
No, you're okay.
Okay, that would seem to me to be precedent then, that if it was paid,
yeah. Yes.
That once they went from being on compensation to furlough.
And that would be the only distinction. That was the only distinction, because they weren't working, they weren't getting paid, but they were getting benefits.
Yeah.
And when we furloughed them, the benefits ceased.
Yeah, I just had a text from someone saying, well, why didn't we put people on unpaid leave? But then they would not be able to apply for unemployment, correct?
That would be correct.
So it would be, if they went on unpaid leave,
they would not be eligible for unemployment.
Okay.
Which is another, by the way, Jim, that answers that question again. Because they are eligible for unemployment, it improves that they're not considered an employee at this district.
I don't think anyone wants to do this to anybody, but the legal vulnerability of the district, if we don't listen to your legal advice, and I do respect your legal advice, John, and I respect your 30 years of experience, I would be extremely concerned about the legal vulnerability. We have enough people in this district firing off lawsuits about anything and everything, and it's a very difficult place to be in.
Taking emotion out of it. I mean, if we have employees that are currently furloughed and we are not paying their benefits, then I think it would cause issue in that regard if we were to furlough and pay benefits for one group and not another. I feel like that would create a massive issue. My unprofessional opinion.
Smart opinion.
Anybody else on the question of the second friendly amendment?
I just want to conclude by saying like I said, I respect Mr. Audie's opinion, but I also think that, you know, you've got Hazleton area, you've got North Pocono, you've got Norristown, you have all these schools that are operating in this global pandemic along with us, and we are proposing to furlough our lowest paid employees and put them out there with no health insurance. So for me, I don't have that in me to do it. So if this would be a way that we could furlough them so that we could save the taxpayer some money, I feel like it's like a drop in the ocean for what it would be to cover this health insurance for these people. So to me, that's the avenue I would want to go with this. That's it.
Mrs. Yanni, would you repeat your amendment, please?
Sure. Let me bring it back up here. So it was exactly what Rose said, up to where the superintendent may call them back. And then I added in, now you're going to find my paper, make me find it. Basically to say, and instead of the medical benefits that Director Hume listed, to say that employees are allowed to continue paying at the rate that they were paying out of their check, and they are able to continue with their health benefits through the furlough.
You're on mute.
I'm on mute?
No, Katie, you're on mute.
Thank you, Sean.
No
You
problem.
seconded that amendment. So we are voting on the second friendly amendment, not the main motion. Just to change the language of the main motion. This is not the vote on the main motion. Okay? Roll call, please, Mrs. Orr.
Mrs. Dempsey?
No.
Ms. Hume?
No.
Mr. Malloy?
No.
Mr. McAndrew?
No.
Mrs. Welby?
No.
Mrs. Yanni?
Yes.
Ms. Cruz?
No.
Ms. Gilmartin?
No.
1 affirmative, 7 negative, motion fails.
Thank you. So now we will have the main motion as amended by Director Hume. Ro, may I ask you to read your amended motion one more time, please?
A motion is in order to furlough with great regret, effective close of business on September 30, 2020, the following positions: 140 paraprofessionals, 6 intervention specialists, 2 level 2 intervention specialists, 4 part-time maintenance, 1 LPN, Prescott Willard, 1 clerk, South Intermediate School, 64 crossing guards, and to authorize the superintendent to recall any furloughed employee as needed. Prescription benefits will terminate per contract the first of the month after 30 days from the last day of work. Medical benefits will expire the last day of employment.
Thank you. And to confirm, who seconded the original?
Michelle, I think. It was
Second.
Michelle.
Michelle, okay, thank you. On the question?
I would like to speak on the question. I think we have talked a great deal about the implications and the significance of this. And I really wish it to be understood that in no way am I, and I believe I speak for the board, diminishing or minimizing the role that paraprofessionals play and have played in this district. But we are in a very different circumstances than we were on March 13th. We are in a different world. It's a world in which, to some extent, we are all finding our place. We are all finding our role. We are all finding different ways to do different things. And this is something that we have been advised that while we are in a virtual situation, this is a wise course of action to take for the district fiscally and administratively. It is not something that anyone takes lightly. It is awful. I have spent more time trying to find ways around this that I cannot see a way around it. I do hope that, first of all, the superintendent will recall employees as needed, and certainly our special education people will be, I'm sure, taken care of. And we can all only hope and pray that we get assistance from the federal government, which we need, that we get an improvement in our health situation, that perhaps the university students don't party quite as hard so that our rate goes up and we're still in moderate, so we still have to stay virtual. I hope that we go back to bricks and mortar school and that the paraprofessionals place returns with it and that the paraprofessionals return to it. It's not a decision any of us take dismissing or diminishing the value of the people or without full understanding of the implications. But as a director with fiscal responsibilities to the taxpayers and to the shareholders, and taking into account Mr. Orty's extremely well-researched and thought-out legal advice, I'm afraid that I believe it's one we must take.
Thank you, Ro.
On the question, I just have a quick question. 2 hall monitors were removed from the furlough list. What capacity will they operate in within a virtual model? And was there a reason for the reorganization of the furlough list, or in regards to that specific union?
That was totally based on seniority. So the lowest 2 people on the seniority list. And again, as we've talked about before with the Manning clause, we have to stay at the 184 number.
Okay.
So with regards to the hall monitors, they'll be placed in buildings. But because of that clause, those individuals cannot be furloughed.
So those hall monitors had just more seniority than like the part-time maintenance and things like that?
Part-time maintenance, well, they actually were a different, the part-time maintenance are a different category.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. Okay. Thank you.
I don't know if I answered your question, but basically you have 2 individuals from that union that are being furloughed with regards to the 184 clause, and they are the least seniority.
Got it. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
Superintendent McTiernan or Mr. Oddie, could you describe what the Manning clause is for those who may be listening who may not know what that is?
I'd be happy to. The 32 BJ bargaining unit has in its contract a provision that says that the district is not allowed to furlough below 184 employees, period. So regardless of the use or the ability to use certain employees during this time, we have no choice but to just not furlough them. I don't mean that we want to furlough them, but we don't, even if we had 0 work for them to do, we would not be able to furlough them. So I don't know when that was put in the contract. I don't know why that was put in the contract. I've heard some history of it, but that's the provision that's in the contract as we speak.
Mr. Orty, the employees from that union who are furloughed, that went from workers' compensation to furlough, how long do they remain on furlough before they either return to work or are terminated?
The contract provides for indefinite. They're indefinitely on. They will have a recall.
And if they are recalled,
forever.
That seems unusual.
It is.
So even if they are not at any stage fit to work, so basically anyone who goes out on workers' compensation can be furloughed and stay on furlough.
anyone who is furloughed will remain on furlough indefinitely, forever.
So suppose we had 200 employees and we had, you know, and 16 of them went out on furlough, we would never be able to furlough anybody else who was actively working. My math may be off, but I guess
that's correct. That's correct. We could not go below 184 employees.
I find this baffling, but I bow to.
On the question, I think there is some significant clarification required about the special education program. So I was going to ask Dr. Baddick a couple of questions about that. Dr. Baddick, can you hear me okay?
Hi, Director Malloy. Yes, can you hear me?
I can. So who did you consult with to design the special education virtual approach?
The executive team. I consulted with the executive team. I consulted with members of other school districts, the Bureau of Special Education, parents, advocates. A number of different people were involved in the decision to provide a virtual platform. We had discussed, as Roseanne Polishin mentioned much earlier in the evening, as a matter of fact, I think she was the first speaker, we had contemplated providing services to students with more complex needs in person, even if we went virtual. However, it is my understanding that the teachers union, the Scranton Federation of Teachers, was opposed to bringing in special education teachers to provide instruction to students when the general education teachers would be home providing instruction.
I either heard or read or both something about the special education program, the department paying psychologists $500 per evaluation. What do you know about that?
Okay, so that is not an accurate statement. I heard that as well during the last meeting. Most of our subcontracted psychologists, all but one actually, receive a per diem rate. They are not paid per evaluation completion. So that is not an accurate statement to have made. And again, if I could just point out, we are in desperate need of additional school psychologists. We have had a profound shortage for the past several years, and we have been unable to attract and hire and retain psychologists because they are bound by the wage stipulations under the SFT contract, which are not in line with other school districts. So Scranton has not been able to retain psychologists. If we were able to do that, we would not need to privately contract.
Sort of along the same lines, again, this is what I'm hearing and reading. I want to make sure that I understand it. Are classroom aides and behavioral techs written into IEPs or otherwise required?
So I'm going to answer that in two parts. PCAs, yes, are part of an IEP, and as such are required. The district is required under the law to provide that as a related service to students with special education needs who are indeed determined in need of that accommodation and support.
And can you define the acronym PCA? I don't do well with acronyms.
A PCA is a personal care assistant. It is a direct service provider written into the IEP. A paraprofessional is not written into an IEP. It is not required under the IDEA. We cannot be sued as a school district over whether or not we're providing a classroom aid. That is a fallacy amongst the teachers and the speakers here tonight. As a matter of fact, if I could just take a moment, I would like to just point out a couple of things. Contrary to what was stated by several speakers this evening, I believe it's important for you all to know that we are not currently able to fulfill our FAPE obligation under these circumstances. And the reason we're not able to do that, and that seems to be the big fear being perpetuated among the speakers this evening, but the reason we're not able to fulfill our obligation at this moment in time is because the SFT has expressed written opposition to the decision that PCA should go into homes to provide support to students as indicated in their respective IEPs. In addition, it's worth mentioning that multiple PCAs have been contacted by me personally and have expressed refusal to go into homes to provide services to students. I think it's important to mention that.
Okay. So then, I guess the final question and kind of a follow-up is what's being done about students who require PCAs, or as I like to call them, personal care assistants?
So right now, unfortunately, our hands are tied because we've not been able to put them in the homes because they have refused to go. And the union, again, has expressed opposition to that plan. So if they are furloughed and they are recalled back, it will be with the understanding that their job is to service students, whether it's in the school setting or the home setting. We have an obligation under federal law to provide supports to these students. And the school district is at this point desperate to provide those services. So we're committed to doing that. And if we aren't able to do that, we're very vulnerable.
Thank you for answering my questions.
You're quite welcome.
Speaking of questions, since I seem to have the floor, I'm not one for speeches, but this is important stuff. And I would like to say that I see the question before the board is what's our duty here? With this tough decision in these awful, awful times, I see our duty as allowing a school district that's in distress to get as lean as possible, as long as the mission, and the mission, of course, is offering the best possible education, as long as the mission doesn't suffer. And I have to trust Superintendent McTiernan and the rest of the administrators that the furloughs, which I like to think are just for during the virtual phase, will not affect our mission to educate our children, and that it will be closely monitored and adjusted accordingly. So thank you for letting me share my thoughts on that.
Thank you, Jimmy. Anyone else on the question?
Yeah, on the question, I know it's a tough decision, and we heard a lot of speakers the last few weeks and a lot of legal opinion. But I'm going to vote no tonight, and the reason for that is we have multiple schools that are closed. We have information that we were given that it has been changed multiple times, whether it's the amount of people, is it what we can and can't offer with benefits, and I don't think the cuts right now were really looked into deep enough or fair across the board. And with all those multiple schools being closed, there isn't anybody on a management level or higher, being taken into consideration or looking at for cuts at the moment right now. So for that, I'm going to vote no tonight.
Anybody else on the question?
Just on the question, I do want to say that I know there is talk, and I said this before. The asking for the furlough of administrators doesn't necessarily mean that they're furloughed. Those administrators could bump teachers. So I know that that's a big push, and so it doesn't necessarily mean that we're saving the district money by asking for VPs to be furloughed, because they could potentially push a lower paid teacher, lower on the totem pole teacher out of the district. So I think we have to get creative, and I trust that Superintendent McTiernan and her administrative team are working towards that and constantly reevaluating this as the virtual learning goes on. And this, like I said earlier, my head and my heart are not aligned, but I feel like I have, as a taxpayer, as a parent of 4 children, and the wife of a husband, I have to look at all aspects of this. And I'm a logical person, and I feel like I have to make the decision that's right for the district and responsible, and that's it.
Thank you. Anybody else on the question?
Yes, on the question. My vote of yes tonight is not a judgment on the worth or impact of any of the individuals affected by this evening's decision. I do know how valuable each of you are in whatever capacity you have served, as evidenced by the many testimonies both heard and read, and what I have witnessed as recently as last Tuesday with my own eyes. I thank each and every one of you for your dedicated years of service and hope that you are returned as soon as possible. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? I don't think there's more to be said. I think you have all done a beautiful job of conveying the value and worth of the individuals who are impacted, our goal to make sure that our students' needs are met, but also our responsibility to be stewards of public dollars. And we are, as I believe I was quoted in the newspaper this morning, we are between a rock and a hard place. And I think we will, unfortunately, continue to face difficult choices like this. I thank you all, the administration, for your thorough recommendations, your explanations, your research, my colleagues for your deliberation. I think we have really thorough conversations about these very, very important issues. And I realize that is small comfort to the people who are impacted by our choices, but know they are made with the utmost respect for the contributions you've already made to the district, the hope that there will be a place for you once again, and you will continue doing the work you love. And I think Mr. Malloy really drove home the point. All of these things are monitored. All of these things are assessed. And I know sometimes my colleagues get frustrated by information that changes. I'm frankly quite pleased that we are not working with people who dig in their heels and say, this is what I said and this is the way it's going to be. We have people who are willing to say they've made a mistake, say they've uncovered new information, say that something needs to be adjusted. And I think when we are working through such difficult circumstances, that is all we can ask of one another and of the people who are making the recommendations on which we must vote. So again, it is most certainly with a heavy heart that we cast these votes this evening. But I do thank you for a full conversation around the matter. Mrs. Orr, roll call, please.
Ms. Hume?
Yes.
Mr. Malloy?
Yes.
Mr. McAndrew?
No.
Mrs. Welby?
Yes.
Mrs. Yanni?
No.
Ms. Cruz?
Yes.
Mrs. Dempsey?
Yes.
Ms. Gilmartin?
Yes.
6 affirmative, 2 negative, motion passes.
With regret. Thank you very much, Mrs. Orr. Now we will have F2, motion to approve the personnel or the assignments, appointments, retirements, leaves of absences, and resignations as attached. Motion?
Moved. So moved.
May I have a second?
Second.
On the question?
On the question, I'd just like to congratulate the new hires and appointees and thank those who are leaving us for their years of service and dedication to the students of the district. And I wish them well.
On the question, is this the complete list, or because I believe someone had mentioned that there are some missing, and I know of one specifically that has resigned and is not on the list. So is there an addendum, or is there a second personnel report to approve at a later time?
Director Dempsey, I can answer that.
Okay.
During public comment, there was a comment made about the professional status of some teachers. So I've already emailed those people and told them I would look into their situations this week. We have a meeting coming up in October, so definitely anybody who is due a professional status, they'll appear on that agenda. And any resignations that I received were after my deadline to give the agenda to the board. So they'll appear in October as well.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Roll call, please, Mrs. Orr.
Mr. Malloy,
Yes.
Mr. McAndrew,
Yes.
Mrs. Welby,
Yes.
Mrs. Yanni,
Yes.
Ms. Cruz,
Yes.
Mrs. Dempsey,
Yes.
Ms. Hume,
Yes.
Ms. Gilmartin,
Yes.
8 affirmative.
Sorry. My next motion is loading, pardon me. I1, we will have a motion to approve the Western PA School for the Deaf contract for transportation as attached. It is for the transportation to and from of 3 school children attending WPSD from its Camp Hill location to WPSD in Pittsburgh. The financial impact is a total of $20,130, $6,710 per child for services.
So moved.
Second.
On the question? These students are in this program at this time, is that correct?
I believe, Director Baddock, correct me if I'm wrong, I believe you said they will be starting on Sunday?
Yes, they go back Sunday and classes start Monday.
Okay. And this expenditure is for the full year?
Yes,
Is it a boarding program?
it is. It's for the secondary students who are hard of hearing. The elementary go to the Scranton School for the Deaf, and then the older students go out to the Pittsburgh School.
I see. And what, so it's just a normal, normal for the British tradition boarding school where you go out and you come home for breaks and stuff like that?
Yep, we transport them down on Sunday evening, and they return home Friday after school.
Well,
So they're there for the week and they're home on weekends.
weekly boarders.
Yes, correct.
That's good news. I'm glad they're getting to go back to school.
Thank you. Anyone else on the question? Okay, roll call, please, Mrs. Orr.
Mr. McAndrew,
Yes.
Mrs. Welby,
Yes.
Mrs. Yanni,
Yes.
Ms. Cruz,
Yes.
Mrs. Dempsey,
Yes.
Ms. Hume,
Yes.
Mr. Malloy,
Yes.
Ms. Gilmartin,
Yes.
8 affirmative.
Thank you. Do we have any new business? Okay. I just have 2 points that I forgot to mention earlier. We will be scheduling a Budget and Finance Committee meeting on September 28th prior to the work session. And on October 19th, we plan an Education Committee meeting. Mrs. McTiernan felt at that time, in addition to some other items we want to cover, we would be able to share some information about the progress of the virtual learning model and, you know, learn about how things have been going and be in a position to assess them. So thank you very much for that. Again, thank you for a robust conversation this evening, and my deepest regrets about the difficult choices we've made this evening and are likely to have to continue to make. I know Mr. Castrovinci will be reaching out to the impacted employees, and they will be connected to the appropriate resources. I know Mrs. Dempsey shared some information about some potential healthcare resource, health insurance resources, and you know we'll continue to figure out any ways that we can connect people to the resources that are available in this community. So thank you again for your continued hard work on that. If there is nothing else, I will take a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion.
Second.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Thank you very much. Have a good
Good
evening.
night, everybody. Thank you.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.